Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight, the show that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. I'm your host, Alexis, joined by Alexys Moreno and David Francisco. Forgot you. It's that kind of day. Yeah, it's what it is, kids. What can I tell you? We're just going to get through this as best we can. Okay, so today we got one movie review coming your way. Past Lives by Celine Song. That'll be at the very end of our show. And then before, we're going to talk about some pretty explosive and juicy stuff that kind of came out literally a couple of days after we had kind of like a big conversation about it, which is kind of eerie because like when we read the news in Variety and I saw that there was like an article trending about Marvel, and I'm like, we just had this conversation. So that's going to be our show today on Red Spotlight number 462. Before we get started, I've neglected to ask you guys, before we even do the show, how you even are. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm like...
We're good. How are you?
I've been better, but I'm okay. I'm okay. We're here. We're doing this. We're doing it as best we can. You know, we're now in November, and we're gonna be.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I know. As far as our show is concerned, well, it's a weird month because we're gonna be having a number of big studio releases. The problem being, though, I don't know how. I think well, maybe half of them we're actually looking forward to. In the other half, either we have no interest in, or we just are expecting some not so great things. So off the top of my head, I know this week, well, that, notwithstanding putting that to the side, you know, the big one that comes out this week, the more important one, the better film, clearly, that opens wide, is The Holdovers, which is a film that David and I actually talked about last week. The Holdovers, that is written and directed by Alexander Payne, stars Paul Giamatti, Devon Joy Randolph, and Dominic Sessa. Everybody has given it glowing reviews. Don't expect the sky. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's really good. Mm-hmm. And I would, if you're gonna go to a theater this weekend and spend money, that would be far more worth your time than whatever the other thing is going to give you. And the other thing that I'm referencing would be the Marvels, which, to be honest, we've had very low expectations from the very beginning of this project being announced, and they've gotten progressively lower and lower, even up until this very week when they released a final trailer, which we'll get to in a few moments. But that's also opening this week, and I think the following week, the Hunger Games prequel, which is interesting in the sense that SAG-AFTRA gave it, they allowed them, as in they allowed their actors to go and promote the film, because apparently Lionsgate's like, we're broke, man, we need something. So I guess they got the okay to do so. And that's movie,
strange.
It is, but it's not the only one to have been given that waiver, I guess, if you want to call it that way. And keep in mind also, there other projects from, like, I want to say A24, their actors are allowed to, because they've already made agreements individually with the studio. I mean, with the actors, so it's fine. But moving past that, I'll get back to Hunger Games and Marvels, because they're kind of intrinsically linked in a way, because they're both big releases from franchises that I'm not sure anybody really expects big things out of, from at least these new installments. And they're both mired in a bit of controversy and drama of all kinds. Again, we love drama. We're going to get into that in a minute. But looking toward the end of the month, Holdovers will be playing all month long. So if you want to wait until Thanksgiving, you can. It's a great Thanksgiving film. It's also a great Christmas movie. So if you want to wait until then. And assuming that the SAG-AFTRA strike ends in the coming days, which we've been told, not that we've been told, but that we've been reading that some kind of agreement is imminent for 2 weeks now, but we're still no closer to a deal than we were 2 weeks ago. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, I think I heard somewhere that if this strike is not resolved, like by by like at least the second week, like I guess next week, they might push Napoleon to next year.
Oh my
That's the
god.
I know, and that's one I'm really looking forward to because Ridley Scott is a great filmmaker. Um, Although lately he has been hit and miss. Some of us were not very crazy on House of Gucci, but all of us had great things to say about The Last Duel. And there's also The Martian that came out in recent years as well. So, and the trailers for Napoleon
It
have
looks
looked
so good.
great. Joaquin Phoenix was born to play that role from an appearance standpoint. He's one of the best actors we have. So, I am looking forward to it. I would see that for sure Thanksgiving weekend, or Thanksgiving week. And then another big release that we have, I think I'm missing one. There may be a smaller independent film, maybe one of the Oscar contenders, but I'm not sure which one. I'm blanking on that one. But I know um, one that is going to, that one is a different situation where it doesn't have necessarily the drama that Marvel's has or Hunger Games has, but it's got a lot of pressure on it, and that would be Wish. Like, which is unfair because in some ways, I I'm not sure how good or not the movie is. Honestly, really matters when the audiences have already kind of like said, told on themselves that they don't see animation from Disney as something that they have to spend $20 per person to go to a theater when they have their Disney Plus subscription, they'll wait or they'll rent it. And I feel like until something changes with that particular model, I don't see how any realistically any Disney animated or Pixar film will perform pre-pandemic. Elemental did better than everybody thought it would, and it did a lot better than what the opening would suggest. So there are still a lot of people out there who want to see these movies in the theater, but
It took a while for it to get there.
it took a long while for it to get there, and it still
I
made
feel
less
like
than
it was in the movie theater for a long time.
yes. So it had that going for it, but it still made less than 500 million worldwide, which is on the lower end, one of the lowest grossing Pixar films ever. So I at least for us, we're just looking to see how good it is or not. And there are a couple of things to address here, just off the bat with it. I haven't been keeping up with Wish and what people are saying about it. All I know is people are having a serious issue with the animation style of the movie. And again, I think I saw a trailer for this movie months ago, made no impact, so I don't really know anything. I just know what the lead character looks like. So I want you guys to really like share with me what you've seen online about what the chatter is going on with this movie.
We don't know much about what's going on online, but when me and Alex first saw the trailer for it, we were both like, "This looks like a Disney Junior show."
It looked strange.
Yeah.
I think I sent you guys a message that they released a new. I mean, they do like clips here and there. There's like a little star character that comes out, and it has like a the light that like surrounds it. I like that part of it, but it's like super specific. So I'm interested to see if like the rest of the movie is gonna look like that, or if it's gonna look how it is in the trailer, which is just it's.
Kyle was far more harsh. I think he said it looked like shit.
Yes, it looks like a mix that they try to do, like a mix between the 3D animation and the 2D animation, and it's like in this in between space. And it just looks awkward. It just looks like unfinished animation, which is so weird. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I give them props for trying to do something different and a new style, which they haven't done in a while. Like the only thing that we got were the Pixar shorts, which you can clearly see that that's what they were trying to do. But I don't know. It just looks.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, as you just mentioned yourself, particularly those of us on this podcast have been calling for years for Disney Animation to experiment more with their animation style and designs. And so from that standpoint, I think we're happy to see some attempt at that. But I think it's also best to keep in mind, though, that it may very well be a case where it just takes time for us to get used to it, or for it to grow on us, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I know that people were, when they started doing the 3D stuff, you know, people were like weird about it too. You know, people were making fun of the big eyes and stuff like that. So I mean,
the one behind you.
Yeah. What?
Oh my god! Like the eye behind you.
Yeah. No. I think the animation they're trying to do their own version of like Spider-Verse or Puss in Boots. The Last Wish.
But you know what? I'm happy you mentioned that, David, because let's just try to remind ourselves, while we're living in a time now where those films you mentioned are not only very successful but very well celebrated. Let's just try. I know a lot of people were praising the initial first look and trailer of Into the Spider-Verse back from 2018, I believe. But you know, I have to think that there were plenty of people who needed time to get used to this new look of animation.
It's just I feel bad saying anything bad about it, because at least they're experimenting, and this is not me feeling bad for the corporation. This is me feeling bad for the animators.
Sure, the real people, the real people whose jobs depend and they put their life and art into it, for sure.
I still think that we need to kind of give it a shot. It's just right now it looks a little bit awkward. So we'll see.
Well, the thing is, the ultimate question is, it is going to come out Thanksgiving weekend. Does this thing have a prayer performing any better than the previous animated films of the last 2 years from Disney? Because they've not been profitable.
No.
And they've not been profitable because of Disney Plus.
I mean, I think it's just all going to depend on word of mouth. I think Elemental, that's what helped it a lot. It came out at the same time as Flash, so that was already like a bad start. But once people started realizing, oh, the Flash isn't that good, a lot of more praise was coming out of Elemental. And so, I mean, we're just going to have to see. The only thing that's for Wish is that the story is more interesting. Sounds more interesting than Elemental. Elemental, we even said ourselves that
I feel like basic. The trailers did not do a good job at telling us what was going on, and like what we saw was completely not what we were expecting. Whereas this one, I feel like it's more straightforward.
Side note: Elio got pushed to a whole other year, and I'm so upset. I am so upset. I am so mad because that trailer was like, more please. Yeah. And it's like, well, you gotta wait another year. First, Spider-Verse is not gonna come out next year, and then this is like,
that one, that one hurt.
It's upsetting to me. I would also think that this upcoming release creates an opportunity for Disney to not make the same mistake again. Like, I feel like no matter how good or not the movie performs, if you're going to do the same shit where on Christmas Day you just drop the new Disney animated movie on Disney Plus, it's going to be like, well, again, you're reinforcing to your audience, why would they have had to have paid a ticket or several to go into a theater when they already have a Disney Plus subscription and they can just wait a whole month and it'll be there on Christmas Day? If they do that again, they're digging their own graves and they're not learning anything. So it'll be interesting to see what decision they make ultimately because of that.
Yeah.
So that's Wish. And again, Napoleon, who the hell knows if it's gonna, stay or not. And then the other movies. Well, the thing about Hunger Games is this. Some reactions have come out praising the film. Some have said it's the best Hunger Games film. Some reviews have said that the first 2 acts are strong while the third is rushed and weak. Personally, I don't care anything about that except for Rachel Zegler, because let me just say this. It is unbelievably aggravating how people who should know better feed into made up made up bullshit stories, and they light a fuel into the fire of like made up fan driven toxicity, you know? And there've been plenty of people who present themselves as being in this YouTube space of like film fans who have had long careers on this space at this point, um, who are much older than we are, and yet they on their own shows talk about Rachel Zegler as, well, what did she do now? What hole or what grave is she digging for herself now? And trying to school her on, oh, she should know better. She's young. She's naive. And there's a lot of things to say about that. But the obvious thing is we're never going to break the chain of just randomly picking a celebrity to crap on just to entertain ourselves. Because if we're being honest, that's the only thing that's happening here. All the crap that's going on around Rachel Zegler and whatever comments she said or didn't say are ultimately unnecessary. You know, I can understand some people that, you know, her comments rub the wrong way, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't necessarily have that much sympathy toward that crowd, because that particular audience is the very reason why we have endless, crappy, shitty Disney live action remakes who refuse to entertain the notion of any kind of realistic adaptation, where they just want a complete retelling, the same movie, but just in quote unquote live action. That audience got pissed off over something that she said. And like I just said, I don't care what they have to say, because I think their taste is awful. They have steered an entire studio into making some of the worst films ever made. Sure, they've profited off of that, but these films have no staying power in the cultural zeitgeist. And ultimately what we're left with is we're picking on this poor girl who literally just got onto the scene. Now, she's had a couple of really big films, but what's really unfortunate and what makes people more, you know, willing to attack her is because all the projects that she's been a part of had not done very well. And I don't know.
It's just annoying because that has like nothing to do with her.
It has nothing to do. I mean, an actor's job in a film is just to do good. Mm-hmm. And the films that she's been in, had West Side Story and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And in both of those movies, she did a great performance. I mean, do we not remember how there was chatter? It didn't ultimately happen because she was too young. And, you know, the Academy is ageist, but there were serious considerations and talk about her performance, which was her debut on-screen performance for West Side Story, being nominated for Best Lead Actress. Mm-hmm. You know, it didn't happen, you know, but she was in the conversation. Like, that's not nothing, you know? Everybody opened their eyes and, like, you know, their jaws dropped when they heard her sing and how magnetic she was on screen. And then she also delivered a wonderful blockbuster performance in Shazam, which personally, some of us feel got way too much hate also, and no one really saw. I'm sorry. It is a really good movie, and I don't understand all of you people who are just like, wow, this is a new low for DC. And I'm like, have you seen the Snyder stuff, you idiots? I don't think you have. No, not really at all. So Rachel Zegler said some comments that, you know, upset people about how, you know, Snow White needed to be updated and everything. And here's the hypocrisy in it. Some of those assholes, you know, through their comments online, have really influenced a lot of the Disney executives into following their lead about things that, quote unquote, needed to be updated. I'm sorry, wasn't one of the biggest selling points of the recent Little Mermaid 2023, and Halle Bailey herself was making comments about how some of the source material needed to be like updated, and she didn't get any flack for that. But why is Rachel Zegler getting attacked for it?
I am so glad you mentioned that, because I noticed that too. Like, I remember specifically that you two were more mad about what Halle Bailey was saying about this movie than anyone else. Nobody was talking about what she and even other people working on the movies were saying.
Rob Marshall was saying some really like questionable things. The director of that movie.
Yeah. It's like where was the hate on that? It's so it makes no sense. And then what she's saying,
granted, not hate on her, just
right
what they were trying to do.
Right.
Which
right.
you know,
Alexis, real quick, I'm glad you made that distinction because we weren't attacking her personally.
Yes,
No.
We had issues with the content of what she was saying, whereas these other people are going way over the line and wanting to see her career implode and fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's troll behavior. That's not what we were doing at all.
Yeah.
Go ahead and continue, Alexis.
Which like I understand in what Rachael Zegler was saying, that like, not that I understand, but like I didn't agree with it either, but I'm not gonna go and like talk bad about her. Like that's like, we also have to remember that, you know, these people like are trained to do like PR stuff. You know, it's not like she went and voluntarily said this. I am like, and then especially with Disney, 100% somebody told her to be saying these things.
And isn't it shitty how Disney kept their mouths shut and just threw her under the bus?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I'm gonna bring it back to that picture that was released for the movie, where
That's right.
Disney specifically went out of their way to say, we are not going to hire little people because they are like, they were trying to make themselves seem like, apparently there was this whole thing with Peter Dinklage, which like, you know, I'm not part of that community, I can't say, but they made it a thing to be like, no, we're not going to hire little people because, you know, it's wrong, whatever. And, you know, people did criticize him, like, so you're basically taking jobs away from.
I'm sure they'd like a paycheck and a job.
Yeah,
it's like, and
you know,
just
which
eliminated
like
that.
You know, you could see you know, there's different sides to it, but that was something that they did. What was it, last week when they released the picture? And what was the main thing in the picture? CGI.
We should also mention that movie got pushed back like a whole year, right? Didn't it?
Yeah.
So they didn't hire little people, but they put dwarves.
Yeah.
CGI dwarves. Like, I make it make sense.
Yeah. No.
Like, and then more people were talking about the bad CGI than that. While Rachael Zegler got shit on for saying, "Oh, you know what, women power."
Literally, Disney has been so contradictory on all of their live action movies, and then all of a sudden, Rachael Zegler is saying all these kinds of stuff and changes that they're making to the movie, and people are taking her word for it, being like, "My gosh, why even make Snow White in the first place?" and all that. But it's like,
she's not making the movie.
Yeah,
like, she's just in it.
Yeah, and mind you, we don't mind these changes. Like, me and Ali didn't really like the live action Little Mermaid, but the biggest praise that we can give it was that, oh wow, they put more stuff into the relationship between Ariel and the prince and all that.
Which, by the way, we still got to make doing that promise of that live reaction we can do on our channel.
Yeah.
Because these two, by the way, for those of you who are listening and watching, they were like, we got to do a live reaction commentary for me for the first time seeing that movie. And by the way, for those even further who may not realize, Little Mermaid, at least for me and Alexis, the two Alexises, hilariously enough, like it's our favorite Disney movie. And again, plugging in our original audio commentary from 2020 of that movie. So continue, David.
No, but yeah, it just makes no sense why they the hate towards her, and it's not.
I mean, it tells you a couple of things. I mean, the hypocrisy is just it reveals it, like the fact that Halle Bailey did not get attacked for similarly, like I would say, tone deaf comments. If not more so. I think Halle Bailey's comments and Rob Marshall's comments were far more tone deaf. And it really reveals that
theirs, I feel, just didn't make sense.
Well,
like to what they were trying to say.
Well, sure, that's part of it. But didn't it come across to you that they just fundamentally misunderstood what was in the text of the original film, and it came off as highly insulting to Howard Ashman?
Yeah.
So. Which I would think Disney fans would like. But
that's also like very, I feel like very niche, like. which is fine. And
Right.
like I said, like I understand people being upset to what she was saying about the movie. Because I remember I made my controversial comments about not liking Cinderella, and all of you guys attacked me.
When was this?
You didn't like the live action Cinderella?
No, the animated one.
The classic one.
Oh, okay.
And but it's just.
Which, by the way, I heard the coughing. That's funny.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Plugging physical media. Go get the Cinderella 4K because it looks amazing. We promote physical media wherever, and that's a film for sure to get on 4K. Don't miss it.
Even though I just said I didn't like it, but yes,
I mean, but still, get it. Still.
So like I understand, people having difference of opinions. But yeah, like that was not, she did not deserve any of that, or what is continuing to.
Yeah, the level
happen.
of hatred that she received, I think, and because we have also the other comments by Haley ability to compare, revealed itself as just a deep-seated personal attack. That's all it was.
Yeah.
That was going on there. And so, and because, and I also don't want to shy
and just
away
like
from
the
this.
fact that she's so young and she's getting like that breaks my heart.
She's a baby. She's like what, early 20s, like just really. I mean, Spielberg discovered her out of high school to do West Side Story. And the thing is, I feel people feel more okay to go after her because her films have bombed. And the thing is, it's a shame because she's great in both of them. They're both really good movies, but they just had, the unfortunate reality is they didn't connect and people were not interested in watching those films for whatever reason you want to name. Now here comes this other one, and people are like, The Hunger Games, the Ballad of whatever, I think, right? I don't know what it is.
Honestly, I don't
Ballad
really
of
watch The Hunger Games.
Songbirds and Snakes.
Okay. And so people are like, the Rachael haters are just like with their popcorn in their mouths, just like waiting for this to fail because they want to see her fail. And I'm like, how small are you to really get a rise out of, I should clarify that, the wrong kind of people failing? Like, I think there are plenty of people in this industry that we cover that, they've had a reckoning coming for a long time. Kevin Feige, anybody? Kathleen Kennedy, anybody? Bob Iger. Like, there are a lot of people who their time's up and they're going to get like what's coming to them because for, a number of really disastrous decisions and, tone deaf decisions, ill-advised decisions that have destroyed everything. And there are plenty of people who are actors who end up just getting, skirting by for every other thing. It's like she also got, it was hilarious when she said it. And I thought it endeared me to her when she said on the red carpet of Shazam that she did this movie because she needed a job. And I'm like, I love that kind of stuff. But I think what I love about Rachael Zegler is that she's real. And the problem is people in the industry don't want that. They want you to make a character, Why do you think Beyonce is so popular? Because she's made a character. Have you ever heard Beyonce really say much? That's the thing. And so because she's against that, because Rachael has she's from this new Zoomer generation and she's, she's wanting to put authenticity out there, brutal honesty, as far as her feelings are concerned, are going to get her in trouble. Now, clearly, all of us feel that the level of trouble that she's received for what she has said is wholly unjustified. Clearly. And so, with this movie coming up, it just like, my worry is if enough people keep saying Rachael Zegler is box office poison, a lot of these executives who are dumber than a pile of rocks are going to believe it, and they're not going to want her in their movies anymore. And we're going to rob this wonderful talent of a career because people were bored on the internet and needed a punching bag.
No, it's either going to be that or in whatever movie she does next, she's just not gonna say anything, and she's just gonna stay silent. And then that whole thing that you said of like she's real, it just goes away. And mind you, you say you like her because she's real during those interviews and all that. She says what she wants to say, and dudes want to hate on her. Meanwhile, though, Gina Carano is still saying whatever she wants to say, and they're like, "Yes, yes, queen," and all that. But it's like, are you fucking kidding me? So like, it's okay. So like, when we want to hate on Gina Carano, we're fucking assholes. But then when you want to hate on Rachel Zegler, you should get praise. We should listen to you more or something. Like what? None of y'all make sense.
Not saying anything to hurt anybody when this other person is.
Yeah, especially because Gina Carano, you can say a lot of things, but she chose to implode her own career.
Mm-hmm.
She was told again and again that her comments would get her fired, and she felt that her political views and her quote unquote not being silenced was more important to her than a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? She's entitled to make the decision. I think everybody is of the mind that it was a stupid ass decision. And I think, to be clear though, her comments were heinous and disgusting. And she should have been fired because she seemed to take delight and joy in attacking an entire group of people, which is so anti-humanitarian, so evil that why would you want to be associated with that? So, I mean, if she feels like that's the path she wants to be on, sure, okay, we can just cancel you, because why would we want you to be all you're going to do is spread hate. That's the key here. And Rachel was not spreading hate.
Mm-hmm.
The hate was being thrown onto her. She was getting the hate just because she was a genuine human being. And that's just what we love to do, is just knock people down, especially women, especially young women. I mean, you can't help but think of Barbie in the background, right? Of all the things that film said, like everything was true. I mean, we knew it, but it's so great that we have a film like Barbie that's finally said those things out loud in such a powerful way, and that so many people actually saw it. Because, I mean, how else do you explain what's happening to Rachel Zegler? That's just the reality of it. So I genuinely want the film to do well because I want her to be in more movies. It's not fair that for whatever reason, this falls entirely on her shoulders to some people.
Yeah.
When she was just there to act. She had no involvement in the creative direction of the Hunger Games, which, we're sidestepping the whole thing of like, who even cares? Because, well, yeah, who even cares at this point? The trailers have looked all right. I don't care. Personally, maybe I'll check it out, but not really. I mean, I liked the Hunger Game movies, but watch the last one. But the last one wasn't very good. The last one wasn't very good.
Really?
No, it wasn't very good at all.
Oh.
The last one. I mean, somebody let a balloon loose in the theater, and people were far more entertained with that than the movie. So that should tell you all you need to know about that situation. And then comes the Marvels, which is a different situation too, because I think that the Marvels is getting a lot of hate, but we have to also make a distinction. It's getting different kinds of hate. And I think some of the hate is very much justified. I think the hate that we're going to throw at that movie, we're not coming from a place where we hate Brie Larson, we hate Iman, we hate Teyona, or we hate anybody personally. I hate Kevin Feige's creative direction. I hate his choices. And I have said that I want him to fail, not because I hate him, but ultimately I hate what he's done to these films and this universe. And I think his time's up. As I said, he needs, the bill comes due. It's time. But ultimately, like, whatever anger and frustration that we throw at this comes from a place of wanting projects like these to succeed, because we want good comic book films. We want good Marvel movies. I think, and also the other big elephant in the room is, it would be really nice if a big blockbuster film that is led entirely by women would be successful. Now, yes, you can make the argument that we've had some of those, like Barbie, but at the same time, in the comic book space, it just feels like every single one of these films that is, anchored by a female lead or female co-leads, is, and by the way, just real quick, I'm not gonna go there at that point, but I just want to make the distinction that from a quality perspective, they haven't been all that great. You can, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 2, Black Widow, now this, which doesn't look very good. So where we come from is, it's a shame that these films are not good, because it's important that they are for more studios to finance and greenlit more projects with just women in the leads, because there's no reason why you shouldn't have faith in a project where females anchor the movie. Like, it's a no-brainer at this point, especially because look at what Barbie did. So just to be clear about where we come from. But the problem is, and the different kind of hate that this film and those other films got, where comes from a place of hate. It comes from a place of wanting these women personally to also have their careers taken away from them. They want all their projects to fail, and they want these studios, they want Disney, they want all of them to stop making films where white guys aren't the main focus of it. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. They will tell you, oh, they're woke, they're pushing politics, they're pushing, they see progressive politics anywhere on a film, and they feel personally attacked, as they should, because honestly, there is a time and a place for conservative politics, and that was 100 years ago. And again, I'm taking a rather extremist point of view, because I feel that the conservative ideology is proven itself to fail over and over and over again, and leads to authoritarianism. And I mean, look at the last 3 conservative presidents and how every time they left office, we have the economy crashing. You'd think that'd be enough proof, but again, never underestimate the stupidity and ignorance of the American people. So that's my soapbox, putting that over there. But here, they don't. The idea that if we're just gonna remove that identity politics out of it, they're the ones that are making it political, because they're actively saying that if you make Black people, brown people, gay people, trans people, any women, if you make them the center of their stories, then they're going to feel personally attacked, because they feel like, well, it used to be that they were making movies just for white guys, and it would be mostly white characters who'd be the center of attention. Now, why all of a sudden are some movies every now and then, getting different perspectives? Now, on some level, they will never communicate this or articulate this, but they don't want different perspectives to be spread across the lexicon, because if they are, people will eventually realize that conservatism is a failed ideology. But they don't want people to know about that, and they want to keep people in the dark. And so what do? They do what they always do, is just like throw a blank term out there, woke, and it distracts you, and nobody knows what it even means. And it just means, we hate these people, and how dare you not make us the focus for a change. And also keep in mind, conservatives primarily are operating from a place of their greatest fear, which is white replacement theory, which is by the 2050s, white people are not necessarily going to be the most dominant group of people in this country because of changing demographics. So now that you have the full context, this film obviously is just getting a lot of toxicity thrown at it because of what I just said. And we even, it's come full circle, because we even made this distinction with the first film, Captain Marvel, way back in 2019. And again, to be further clear, this whole new wave of, neo-fascist, alt-right, YouTube trolls emerged out of The Last Jedi. Well, that was their coming out party, was The Last Jedi situation. But they were here the whole time, but they felt emboldened to do so. And every step of the way, whenever we have, any movie that was not centered on a white guy last year, in the last few years, it's the same old song and dance. And I just hope that people who are listening to this understand that they're not valid. Mm. There's no reason to take what they say seriously, but it's also important to not just ignore it. I'm not a fan of just ignoring it, because if you do, you allow it to just fester there and infect other people who don't know any better. So many Star Wars fans continue to this day. They were captured, they were swayed, they were manipulated by this right wing group of people and their tactics. And so now, because they have that, they're not going to be exposed and think that they're supposed to like more conservative ideas, which is why Alexis and I had a big problem with Sound of Freedom earlier this year, because ultimately it was a massive box office success for sure. But the goal of the people who financed the film was not to get you to care more about child sex trafficking or whatever it was. It was to get a bigger audience for their ideas and for their point of view. That was the point of it all. Now, I think most people who saw the film, quite frankly, have no idea all the behind the scenes of what went on. But the point is, if they could just get one more person to subscribe to their ideology, that was the point of Sound of Freedom. That ultimately is what it was. So going into the Marvels, because there's levels of hate and different kinds of hate, and we're about to hate on the film overall, it's important, and even more important, to make the distinction where we're coming from versus where the trash is coming from. Anything else to add on to that specific part of the hate?
No, I mean, biggest example of what you were trying to say is episode 3 of The Last of Us. If you remember, that is the episode.
Oh shit, that's right.
Of those 2 gay characters. Like the whole episode, literally, the main story just like gets put to the side, and you're just focusing on these 2 gay characters. But everyone who's seen it, are like, this is the best episode of that season, and should be talked about for like awards and all that. You know, people absolutely loved it. But then the conservative side, what are they saying? They're trying to make you gay. That's all they think about on that episode, and not just the fact that they told like a great love story in that. You know. And also, yeah, like you mentioned too, we don't have high hopes about this movie. When we're talking about this, we know what's going on behind the scenes, and we just don't like it, and we just don't think this is going to be a good story. And
yeah, and I just feel bad.
And also,
of course,
in terms of, you know, you mentioned Sound of Freedom, you two don't like it because of what's happening behind the scenes of what their goal was trying to be.
And to be fair, I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Alexis did see it.
Ala did see it. That's why she doesn't like it. I did see it. I thought it was an okay movie. I kind of enjoyed like the journey.
And honestly,
this main character
most people feel the same way.
Yeah,
most people walk away. That was good.
Yeah, it was fine. But like I don't mind. I don't really care.
But the way that Alexis portrayed it just like turned me off. Like I was so repulsed by the way that she was describing it. And so I think I would feel the same way that she would, and I'm like, no, thank you.
So yeah, we're just like, all of us here, when we're talking about Captain Marvel, we're mainly talking about what we think the story is going to be. It never crosses our mind that this movie is going to flop because they're trying to empower women.
I just feel bad because I do enjoy these characters, and I think that each actress has done like a good job in what they've been doing. I mean, what was her name? Miss
Iman Vellani, Teyonah Parris,
yeah,
Brie
she's
Larson.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I just keep thinking that, like, it's basically annoying how, you know, you mentioned earlier the the movies that have come before this, Black Widow, Wonder Woman. I think with the exception of Wonder Woman 2, I think that one they kind of dropped the ball. But I feel like the rest are kind of set up to fail, and that I think is what's frustrating to me. And
in very different ways as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just kind of my take on it.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of ways because we'll be talking about Marvels, and then this will also bridge us into the drama that, you know, that Explosive Variety article. But I think, again, to just reiterate what we've been saying for months, the trailers have been very underwhelming. But more than just the trailers, what really has just made us feel like this won't be very good is because 99% of the recent MCU projects have been not very good at all. And some have been especially bad. Like, I want to ask David, because you've seen everything. Marvel Studios, all the movies, all the Disney Plus shows. I think you're the only one that has seen everything. What's the single worst thing they've done?
I gotta really think through the list. Oh, well, honestly,
it's some competition now, right? What's the worst one?
Honestly, I think it would have to be Secret Invasion. Just because, like, I haven't finished Loki season 2. That one's probably like a close second.
Wow, it's that bad?
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
What about She-Hulk?
She-Hulk? I mean, She-Hulk, at least there were some moments where I can go, okay, that was funny. That was, I guess, interesting. Secret Invasion, though.
She-Hulk was better than this Loki season 2? That's what I think Alexis was getting at.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow.
Like I said, I've only seen 2 episodes of Loki season 2, but like, it's just
She-Hulk,
so
I admire their marketing.
I mean,
that's what I enjoyed.
There was parts of She-Hulk that I like. I actually liked the chemistry between her and Matt Murdock. Like, actually,
that was worth watching. That's the only thing worth watching, and it makes me sad because, like, that's an interesting show. That could be an interesting show.
Yeah, like, interesting relationship.
If it was an actual lawyer show, which it kind of wasn't.
No, it wasn't. And but Secret Invasion, though, I don't know what the point of it was, honestly. Like, I don't. If this
Which is wild
to me, Secret Invasion,
like that's such a big storyline.
More than anything, I feel like Secret Invasion should have been like a send off to Nick Fury. Like, you could have killed him off in this and been like, God damn, this dude.
Hey, you also could have used Clark Gregg. I'm just saying that would have been a perfect chance. I mean, but you know what? I'm happy he wasn't involved because they would have just killed him off probably.
Yeah.
So
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they kill off Talos, and they're probably not gonna bring that up in.
Was that one girl from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in it?
No.
Okay.
No. Real quick on that. For years now, people were speculating that was the project that she was going to be attached into.
That's crazy that she wasn't.
She wasn't in there. That's true. Last I checked, though, the person who shall not be named, whose sources always seem to be on point with Marvel, never mentioned Secret Invasion with her being involved in the MCU. So she said for the last she said this person who should not be named said for the last few months that she heard that she was involved. She'll be back, but at no point did she say it was connected to Secret Invasion. Others were saying that it for sure was, but the more trustable, reputable of these sources were saying that she's in it, but not that project, which also makes you think, well, then what project would it be if that's the case?
This one?
They're
right.
A hero.
No. I'm sorry.
I don't think so, though.
But, like, come on. Like, yeah, right. I mean, I don't think Marvel would ever be desperate enough into thinking that an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cameo would be something to bank on. Remember that they fundamentally feel like.
I mean.
Well,
these are the same people that
they brought in Robert Downey Jr.
These are the same people that thought Quantumania was going to be a success. I mean, you never know.
They brought back Iron Man. I don't know.
I don't know. Personally, how to feel about that any longer, because these projects are getting worse and worse and worse, and I don't know if I want any of my characters to be involved in that. So I'm a little bit like, Especially,
I have a feeling it might happen because
in this movie,
maybe you never know. Because didn't the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. guy come out in the first Captain Marvel movie?
That's true.
Clark Gregg.
So, I don't know. Quake, that's her name. I remembered.
Right. Well, maybe. Speaking of, then, since you used that out there, there's so many things. So, David, I'm reeling a little bit. I'm really shocked Well, in a way, I am, but also in a way, I'm not. To hear that Loki season 2 is like that bad, I mean, that's just crazy. Um, and before I get to what else is being teased for the Marvels in those trailers, so you said your answer was Secret Invasion. I think to me, I think we've gotten to the point where even though
I'm not even watching them anymore.
No, I'm not even. But of the ones that I have seen, even though we initially were somewhat polite about how Quantumania was, I think it's already exceeded how bad the first Ant-Man and the Wasp was. I think it's the worst thing that they've done, just real easily. Now, here is an interesting question, David, because you are very unique in that not only have you seen all the Disney Plus Marvel Studio shows and all the films, but I think you've seen just about every single 2013 to 2020 Marvel television live action show. The ABC shows, the Netflix shows, and the Hulu shows. That's right. Yeah, and that's a lot of content.
Cloak and Dagger, the Runaways.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, if we were to include all those shows, what would be the worst thing when you include Marvel Studios and the Marvel television stuff put together? Is it still Secret Invasion?
I mean, Iron Fist.
I forgot about that.
I know. Iron Fist and Secret Invasion are pretty close. Only because, again...
What about that other one with the guy from Game of Thrones?
Inhumans.
Inhumans. Oh my god. Oh wow. Mm-hmm.
Talk about a race to the bottom.
Oh my god, I'm sorry, my dad is dying out there.
No, you're okay. Better him than us. Continue.
Oh man, Inhumans actually. Okay, the thing about that is that there was entertainment in the bad. And so
that's true.
That's the one thing about all of these, all the bad ones.
It was fun to watch from that standpoint, but like, wow, this is laughably bad.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many, like, that was one of those shows where something would happen every frame where it's like,
what the fuck?
My favorite moment, and I laughed out loud. It was this one lady who was like an assassin for the bad guy.
Oh man!
And she goes inside this bus, and the dude's just like, "Hey, you can't be in here," and like barely touches her, and she's just like it snaps his neck. And for some reason, I don't know why they even did this, but they put a close up on her face, and she goes, "No one touches me," and then. I was just like, the fuck was that for? Why even have the bus driver there at all?
No, man. The funniest thing was when Black Bolt killed his parents. What?
And then the reveal later on, though, it was that the reason why he said why is because his brother gave him some rumor that his parents were going to like send him away because he didn't have any powers or something. And that was the reason why he said why. Because he thought, why are you sending me away?
Not because he killed them?
No. So Black Bolt, when he was trying to get his powers, nothing was coming out. They didn't know why, and so he sits down in front of his parents and he says, "Why?" Like at first you're thinking, "Why didn't I get powers?" But no, the why, like that's his sonic voice thingy, and he killed them. Later on, though, his brother tells him. We find out that. The brother started a rumor saying that Black Bolt's parents were going to send him away. And so that's the reason why he started the conversation with why, as in, why are you going to send me away? And the brother was like, it's my fault that you killed our parents. And it's like, that's not the reason. It would have happened eventually.
Dude, that era was a trip. Like, there's so many things about it that's just so funny. Like, remember this. The first 2 episodes premiered in IMAX theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, what was so funny was that everybody involved was playing the blame game. ABC was pointing at IMAX. IMAX was pointing at Marvel Television for like how bad this was. And
that happened.
It was a whole thing, right? But one of the things that it ended up, I guess, being meant to be is because Inhumans was so embarrassing, because it was so bad, everyone knew there was no shot for any future seasons. And remember that when it was first announced, it was very clear that ABC was trying to replace Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the show. That's what, and also keep in mind that when season 5 was renewed, everybody involved on Team S.H.I.E.L.D. was like, okay, this is our last one. And they wrote that whole season as a finale season. But then the surprise was that they ended up getting more episodes, more seasons, because of how bad Inhumans did. That's how bad Inhumans was. That it was like, so, but I will give you this. There's entertainment to be had in how bad it is. Whereas everything I've heard about Secret Invasion suggests it's the worst kind of bad.
Yeah.
Where you can't even have any kind of enjoyment in it.
I really couldn't find any enjoyment at all. I just did not care for what was happening with Nick Fury's character. They set up a relationship. I didn't care whether or not she was going to be good or bad. I didn't care that the relationship was fixed, I guess, at the end. And the stakes of the movie, they set up this thing where Fury was kind of like, had like an apprentice who was a Skrull, and then he becomes the villain. I just didn't care about it at all.
Yeah.
And I say Iron Fist is probably like a close second. The only saving grace of Iron Fist is the second season that I actually like thought was better than the first. And it had like an interesting ending that I actually would have wished we would have had more. But not with Secret Invasion.
But it makes you think back to 2017 where Iron Fist season 1 and Inhumans season 1 came out back to back. Actually, that's not true. In between Inhumans and Iron Fist, but that same year, 2017, Defenders came out. Remember that? I forget that even happened.
Yeah.
I honestly forget that even happened.
Yeah.
I feel like I mixed that one and Iron Fist together a lot. I cannot tell you what happened.
Yeah. That was not a great year, and I think that's ultimately that 1, 2, 3 was like, that was curtains for Marvel television. Again, I think it. I was saying in real time back in 2017 that S.H.I.E.L.D. was the beneficiary of everything else blowing up around it. Like, how you can't time it perfectly than that. Like, everything else was just like collapsing. Yeah. It was so funny. I'd say Quantumania is my least favorite movie. Least favorite series, probably She-Hulk. And then the other ones, Iron Fist, I think, or Punisher. Punisher, I don't remember. I remember Iron Fist was how bad it was in the first season. Alexis, how about you? A least favorite movie or TV show from Marvel? Any of the Marvel Studios. It could also be the television stuff.
Movie. I really don't like Thor 2.
Yeah. It's not very good.
And Quantumania.
Yeah. How about a show?
Bad.
She-Hulk. Did you even watch
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
The last one I watched was Miss Marvel.
I can understand that. They fucked up that ending.
Yeah.
You were so pissed off.
I mean, I feel like Iron Fist, and not just because it was bad, I just feel like they were at the top of, like, at least, like, the Netflix shows, and then that came out,
and it was the beginning of the end. That Iron Fist show was the beginning of the end. Ultimately, we didn't know it at the time. Yeah. It was a huge drop-off in quality, but when we go back and looking at it, that was the beginning of the end, because right after that came out Defenders, and then it was Inhumans. And the thing is, 2017 is an interesting year because there was great comic book content that year. Homecoming, Ragnarok, both are films that I would say I'm less high on now than I was back then, but are still enjoyable. But then Guardians 2 came out that year. Logan came out that year. Wonder Woman came out that year. The Justice League came out that year. Yeah. So, man, what a time to be alive, 2017. That really is a blast from the past.
It was, that was a good year.
Yeah.
We went to go watch Guardians 2 together.
That's right. That was a great experience. Man, I love the Guardians films. Can't believe how long ago that was.
I know. It feels like a million years ago.
Mm-hmm. And
Eternals just had its 2-year anniversary.
Yes, I want to clarify for people who were listening. Like when she says that we went together, we were living at San Diego at that time, not now, which is not where we live at today, unfortunately. So yeah, Eternals just had its second anniversary, and I think like some people are always going to be stubborn about it, but I have a sneaking suspicion that as more years fly by, people are going to look back at that movie and think, like what Thanos said to Nebula in Endgame, perhaps I treated you too harshly. That's exactly, I think, what's happening right now and what's going to happen, which also, by the way, don't think I haven't noticed, even though we haven't been talking about it, but, you know, and we already mentioned it, but the same thing's happening with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like slowly, more and more people are finding it, and little by little, it's getting more and more notoriety because it was actually a television show, and a pretty good sci-fi show at that too.
Yeah. I feel like I can't think of another show, in like the recent years that people follow. I mean, I guess you could say like, the DC stuff is going away. The CW.
We haven't, you know what? I forgot to put that in my notes, but the news came out, even though I think we all kind of saw it coming a mile away months ago, and they renewed for a shortened season. And I think they also heard that some of the regulars would not be coming back because of budgetary reasons. But it was announced over the last few days that Superman and Lois, which is the final Arrowverse CW show,
DC stuff,
will be concluding after this final 4th season. And there's a couple of ways to look at it. I've never seen it, but I hear great things from you guys, and I know, hey, I feel like the buzz and the vibe I get from you is that this was very easily one of the better, if not the very best, of the Arrowverse shows. And it's so unfair, like many things are in life, and how many unfair things are in this industry. It's so unfair how this came out at the time that it did, with such turmoil and such, change happening left and right. Yeah. But on some level, to have lasted 4 seasons in this environment is still something of a miracle.
Honestly, yes. It definitely feels like they ended on a bang. But like it sucks because I feel like out of all of the stuff that was coming out, like this is the one where a lot of people were like, wait, this is really good. So that, yeah, it sucks. But I am happy that we still got it. But
and you get one more season.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully they.
And also, I saw somebody tweet out, which makes me like also emotional. But somebody said that they started off the DC CW stuff with Smallville when Superman was not Superman yet, and then now they're ending it when he's an adult. Cry. I think CW is gonna get shut down.
Well, I think, yeah. What else can you say?
Like, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, Disney Channel getting shut down in different countries. That's wild.
Yeah.
Didn't you tell me that Cartoon Network is done too?
Oh yeah, Cartoon Network is done.
What? This just feels like the destruction of society.
It kind of. But I feel like with how things are going and how things are looking, they're going to come back.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I sure would hope. Anywho, this whole thing, I hope should have informed some people that, we've seen a lot of things Marvel. We've seen a lot of things Marvel Studios. And I think we've belabored the point for weeks and months on end that their recent content has been bad. And in some instances, very, very bad. And Variety kind of just let it all out there. And no one came out of it looking good. But before I even read that, there is something else I wanted. There were some comments that were made by a different director who originally was being courted to direct Blade. Another thing that's been like just so delayed. But it is related to the situation of Nia DaCosta, by the way, which is the director of this movie, The Marvels. Marvel did her so dirty when that article came out, and no one clarified that what else was she supposed to do to leave that movie behind when they're in post-production. And especially, this is the studio that tells all their directors, don't worry about the action, don't worry about the visual effects. We got that covered. You just come here, you hold the camera, and you can go. And she also had permission to leave to go film her other projects. So there was real, again, Marvel did her dirty. And honestly, some people would say it was very racist. Also that, you know, she's, you know, one of the, I think their first ever, you know, POC woman director, right? No, second. She's the first African-American female director. I forgot about Chloe Zhao. I'm sorry, Chloe Zhao. And also, she also, like, where has she been? Like, are we really gonna, like, she should be making more films. Are we gonna forget about the writer in Nomadland? Like, she won Best Picture and Best Director. It's like, hey, where is she? Give her more things to do. Okay. Okay. So, about the Marvels, real quick. The marketing has been so desperate. That trailer that came out, you know, recently, where half of it was just like, it was teasing a different movie. It was like Endgame 2. It was just that, you know, audio of Thanos and Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, and it's like,
what does it have to do with this movie?
Nothing.
It also, like,
they revealed the cameo.
They
revealed the cameo in Tessa Thompson.
Some, if not nothing at all, like, connection to these people. Like, the only thing she did was just come in at the end.
That's something that makes it even more awkward. It's like she wasn't really there, and if we never even saw any of that. And then also, about this trailer is the idea that I forgot. Shit, Alexis, you gotta talk. I forgot what I was gonna say. What was I gonna say about this trailer? It'll come to me right now. Shit, I hate when that happens. I was fighting so hard for it to not go, and then it escaped from me at the very last second about what I was going to say about this trailer. Oh, yes. We had mentioned it earlier when you were thinking about what was being teased. Some people were thinking they're getting, like, apparently the post-credit scenes are so explosive and they might introduce X-Men.
Yeah, I've been hearing that too, which, like, doesn't make me happy. But watch we get another sound. I mean, they did, you know, with Miss Marvel, so I mean, it could be.
And she's in this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not expecting great things from it. It's not tracking well, and honestly, with everything we're about to hear right now, they got what they deserved.
Do you think that they're going to do something with, like, Deadpool?
Maybe. They could be. Because Deadpool's going to have X-Men characters next year in the movie. Albert Hughes said he passed on directing Blade when he said, it's a bad situation. You never want to be somewhere you're not truly wanted. You're not truly wanted for what you do, you know? And by the way, Nia DaCosta herself said comments like this, I think about half a year ago. People were giving Nia DaCosta, oh no, that's me. That's me. Now this is him. I think there is a thing that's rarely talked about in Hollywood. There's a difference between a director and a filmmaker. A filmmaker is all-encompassing what they're touching on their film. That's a filmmaker to me. And a producer can be a filmmaker too. A cameraman is a filmmaker, a rock star cameraman. A director is one who just calls action and leaves and checks in on the editing every once in a while. Hughes wanted Marvel to hire him for his singular talents, not just to fill in for a gig. And then he says, so if you're getting hired for you and what you do and what you bring, I've been in a situation more recently where I'm getting poked and prodded and it's like, oh, you don't really want what I do. That was checking a box for them. And this is not going to work out. and it didn't work out. I had to quit that job. I smelled it pretty early on, and no, I'm not here for that. And good for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's ultimately what Marvel does. And again,
They just want the name, but they don't want the actual.
They don't want to actually give up control. So I'm gonna read certain parts from this Variety article. And you know what? I'm just gonna paraphrase some things. For one, in one of the early paragraphs, they're not sure what to do about Jonathan Majors, and some people at this summit were so desperate that they were thinking of just like pivoting away from him and just jumping into Doctor Doom, which I don't see how that fixes anything.
Yeah. Just recast, honestly.
Recast.
Yeah, it'll still be awkward no matter what, but like might as well be safe and recast, and hopefully
I'm sure
the next guy.
Even though he's played a character in the MCU, I'm sure Chukwudi Owaji is available.
I literally was thinking that too. I'm like, just bring him back. It's fine.
Wait, who is
I've
it?
seen that movie. Chukwudi Owaji, who played the High Evolutionary on Guardians 3.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. So you can just call him Chuck. People call him Chuck. His full name is Chukwudi Owaji. He's so good. And they've already introduced the idea of variants. Do it. Do it. That's all you have to do.
Just do it.
Clearly, right? So they were also talking about how at the premiere of Quantumania, there was people who were walking out of the theater that were shocked about how unfinished the visual effects looked like. Yeah, we could have told you that. Clearly. They're also talking about
funny that people forget about Spider-Man.
Right. They also talk about how they're worried about the Marvels and how it's not really going to do all that well. Some people were speculating that there's just too much comic book content, which is part of what's at play here, but they might just try and use that as a scapegoat. There are a lot of bigger problems going on than just, there's a lot of comic book stuff, you know?
I feel like that is like the last.
Right?
Yeah, because how can we get a bunch of nothing but then have the Eternals? Like, there's clearly still something there. It's just that they're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm. And then a big part of the article, as I mentioned, they threw Nia DaCosta under the bus, saying that she had, trying to imply that she ditched them, which even if she did, good for her. Why would she stick around? What was she going to do? What was she going to do? They don't want her consulting on because again, Marvel doesn't make movies how they should be made. They section off different departments, which is also what caused their TV shows to end up being as poorly as they've been received. And then, let me see here. They talk about how Kevin Feige has been spread thin. I don't understand why no one wants to bring up the fact that in 2019, the Marvel Television output that was responsible for all those previous TV shows was shut down and everybody was let go. And it's like, I'm not saying keep the people. I'm saying keep the division and split off the work, because it is, and it always was, nonsensical of you, Kevin Feige, to think that you could do 4 TV shows or 4 TV, not really TV shows, 4 long movies, and then 4 theatrical films a year. And they think he's spread too thin.
He's spread too thin. And it's also funny that they word it that way.
Yeah, right?
Like if he's not, like if he can't do anything about it, or if like he can't just like let go.
Oh, and one thing I wanted to bring up is like we've also been talking about for a lot. I mean, right now, the Marvel VFX workers are in the midst of unionizing. There will at some point be a strike going on pretty soon, and the visual effects part of these films has been a big reason for why they've been failing And as the years have gone by, we have found out it in large part for why their teams are asked to redo everything is because they don't plan out their scenes ahead of time for VFX. And I had shared with David an interview with the VFX supervisor for, of all movies, Killers of the Flower Moon, a film that you probably wouldn't even think of. Oh, it had a lot of visual effects and it had CG. It did. And it looked incredible. And how David and I were like, we didn't even realize there was any CG involved in it. And then David, you had made a comment about like, wow, like what a novel idea to just plan out your VFX shots on what you're actually going to shoot.
Yeah.
Instead of just rotoscoping everything at the last second.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, you probably didn't read that, but like they mentioned that they CGI'd a hat on someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that just tells you though, like that's how much CGI there was in that movie. You're probably thinking like, oh yeah, some background stuff and it's like no, there was some stuff in front of the camera that was CG and you probably didn't even notice. The only one that I can think of that was obvious was that wide shot of the land and you see the oil rigs. But like even then though, that only crossed my mind after the article. I was still like for some reason in my head, it didn't cross my mind like, oh, that's cool CGI. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Like we get a scenery of the land, like they're really working on their oil rigs and all that, blah blah blah. But yeah, it just probably can point out you probably won't be able to point out half the CG when you're watching that movie.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
also
go ahead.
That comment of planning out your shots, but also sticking with them.
Yeah,
that's the other thing too. That one they just reshoot after reshoot and then try to fix it up, and it just doesn't work.
Some changes have been announced recently. Of course, a few weeks ago we talked about how they completely restructured how they're going to do TV shows from now on. They say they're going to have showrunners and they're going to actually test pilots. Those are very big improvements. But if Kevin Feige is still calling every single creative decision, it doesn't matter to me. It's still going to be pretty not great. So, and this week they unveiled what they're calling Marvel Spotlight with that Echo trailer.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that. It feels thrown together. I can't think that this was the point, because keep in mind, Echo is not getting a traditional Disney Plus release. It's going to get dropped all in one night, and then also it's going to get dropped on Hulu simultaneously.
Yeah.
And what I don't like about that Spotlight thing, we remember when we were talking about Scorsese's thing about
indie movies, the indie label.
Yeah, the indie label. Doing that, you're just telling everyone, hey, this is
less important.
This is less important. Yeah, this is going to be more serious. It's going to be pretty bloody. It's not going to have all the fun things that you want, the cameos and the superhero fights. Boom. And so you're just putting it in the corner and telling people that it's not going to be that important in the long run, which, mind you, Secret Invasion was not important in the long run, like at all. It's not. If they don't even mention Talos in that movie, then yeah, it's not. That show was never important.
They're not going to mention him at all.
No.
How did that Echo trailer look to you guys? It felt like a blast from the past in a way. I felt like I was watching a Netflix Marvel show trailer.
Yeah, for sure.
There was blood in it, which was surprising.
Compared to Moon Knight, you remember what they said?
I forgot about Moon Knight.
They were like, it's going to be the bloody
Oh my
show.
God, I didn't finish it though, so I can't add it to my list.
Yeah, but Kevin Feige literally said Moon Knight's gonna be like the bloodiest show, and I just told Alexis, where the fuck is the blood? Like it's nowhere near. You only see it in his hand when he after like some cut that he beat the shit out of people. But no, this one like, okay, yeah, there's some blood, there's some violence. Okay, these are
apparently they have there were a lot of problems with Blade that we didn't know about. There were a lot of problems that we did know about, but part of the problem was that in the many revisions of the script, at some point he was relegated to the fourth lead in a film called Blade.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, it seems that those script issues were fixed. They're gonna make one of their first films ever under $100 million budget, which is encouraging. And it will be R-rated. So all those things are very encouraging to hear. Because that's exactly what a Blade movie should cost. I don't think it needs, and it should be R-rated, honestly. I don't think it has a prayer to do what Del Toro did with Blade 2, especially, because that thing was a stylistic swing to the other end of it. But still, you want the best for it, and these you have to just admit these are great decisions to move going forward. However, the fact that you got to this place in the first place, it just, what trust is there that at the end of the day you're going to wrap it around and release something that's actually good? That's part of the big problem here, right? And I'm just amazed that Mahershala Ali has not left them.
I know.
Either
they're probably
or he really loves Blade. I don't know.
He must really want to play that character.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the one that's like, no, we have to do this right.
Oh,
hopefully.
Speaking of desperation, one of the eye-opening things that came out of this article, I'm going to read this verbatim here. With Iger publicly acknowledging the downside of a Marvel TV glut that diluted focus and attention, I'm going to stop there. At no point did Iger say that he was the one that started this initiative in the first place to create TV shows for Disney Plus. That was him. And then he's like, oh yeah, it didn't work out. But did he say, my bad, guys? No, he didn't say that. It continues. The keepers of the comic book empire are considering some dramatic moves. Sources say there have been talks to bring back the original gang for an Avengers movie. What it's referencing there clearly, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Jeremy Renner. As I would say, this would include all those who were killed off in Endgame. But the studio hasn't yet committed to that idea.
Do you really think Scarlett Johansson would go back?
No.
And by the way, I want to congratulate Scarlett Johansson on her recent lawsuit against AI. We hope the best for her. She's the queen of lawsuits.
For real?
Love it. I'm going to sue you. And then she does. That's just so funny. I hope that she wins again. That was so funny when that happened. I can't believe that actually happened. She sued Disney and won. That's hilarious. That would be this is a new low.
It really is. It's so bad, and it sounds so bad, and I don't know why anybody would be excited about it, considering what they've been putting out. If anything, I would be like scared, because it's like they ended their stories like good. Why are you going to unravel everything?
Yeah. I would say, though, is the one thing they have going for them, or that they've had going for them, is Guardians made a lot of money this year. It made $845 million worldwide. Although I'd argue it would have made $1 billion if Marvel didn't shit the bed, right before with a really bad movie. Also, they seem to have a surefire hit with Deadpool 3 coming out next year.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. But other than that, yeah, all I'll say is, like, ultimately, nothing here was new to us.
Yeah.
Not really anything here was new to us.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about this for years. And I also want to, not to be that guy, but I am going to be that guy. We called it July 2019. July 2019, when Kevin Feige went on stage at Comic-Con in San Diego and presented his slate for Phase 4. And if you go back and listen to that podcast, you will hear a lot of pessimism and a lot of predictions about how this is not going to go the way you guys think. And that honestly might have been one of the best predictions we all made at that point, because when you look at where we are right now, Marvel is on the cusp of losing its stranglehold over pop culture. No one's watching the shows anymore. For that matter, Star Wars is doing terrible as well. The Ahsoka numbers have not been great either.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, with Kathleen Kennedy failing, with Kevin Feige failing, with Bob Iger failing, you know, it's funny how people are ready to like, they're like, okay, let's use Jennifer Lee. Let's go ahead and call for her to be fired. When are we gonna get to the point where we need to like seriously look at Feige, Kennedy, and Iger as like, you know what, you guys were doing okay, and in some instances you did amazing in the last 10 years. But
let's shake it up a little bit.
But at this point, I don't know what they can do.
Yeah.
I don't know what they can do to fix any of their problems. I mean, personally, it starts and ends with what and how they treat Disney Plus. They got to reprioritize what's most important to them. And if they're going to continue to keep Disney Plus as is, I don't see how this fixes anything. They have to begin there as part of the solution to all of their problems. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind that, you know, maybe we just give executives like Kennedy and Feige and Iger too much credit because they seem to just be so easily swayed by what they read online.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of people were complaining about, what's his name? The DC guy that's there now.
Oh, James Gunn.
Gunn. About him coming in and shaking everything up. But you know who's going to be winning in the end? It's going to be him.
Yeah.
Because...
But it's also a really unfair way to frame things. What did he shake up? It was dead. It was dying. There was nothing to be shaken up. For years and years and years, people had tuned out those films. Why do you think in this year, 2023, there'll be a fourth one, but 3 of the DC... Well, God damn, there were 3 DC films already out this year? With Blue Beetle, The Flash, and Shazam.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and there'll be a 4th one with Aquaman in December. So it's like, why do you think all of them failed? Even though they were not all of the same quality, they were actually quite different in quality. They failed because of years and years and years of inconsistency of quality. At some point, the bill comes due. People are going to be enough of this. And I think what connects what's happening with the Marvel stuff and with the DC stuff is we're at a point now where more things have been bad than they've been good. And recently, most things have been bad. Hardly any of it has been good. And the only ones of both of those camps, even though one of them doesn't qualify as MCU, but it's still Marvel, that have succeeded because of how exceptional the quality was Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians 3.
Yep.
Everything else has fallen by the wayside because no one cares anymore. And that's just the sad reality of it. And I would say that on both of those camps, not the same things happen to them. Very different things happen to them, as a matter of fact. But they've arrived at a point where they've kind of really ruined their own brands. Marvel, not to the point that DC has. DC, the decision to allow Zack Snyder to make 3 films with them continues to fuck them over.
So funny.
It's been 10 years since Man of Steel.
Oh my God.
Like, Jesus. So...
Can you believe we watched a 4-hour movie?
and remember what Peter and I said this back in late 2016 when Suicide Squad premiered. It was on one of our Barely News Crew review videos when we were like saying, if more and more bad comic book films come out, people are going to get tired of them. That was in 2016. We're now in 2023. I think we're at that point now. Mm-hmm. We've seen enough evidence to suggest that we're at that point, whether it be in the theater or on streaming. People are kind of over it. because in large part, so many of them have been bad.
Yes, very bad.
Very bad in some instances. So will the Marvels add on to it? Probably. I think ultimately, I mean, who knows? It might be fine. It might be fun. You know, if you're out there listening in, if you're excited for it, good for you. I hope you have a good time. No one here wants to ruin that experience for you. But considering how all three of us here have been so disillusioned with the quality lately, it's hard for us to imagine us watching it to like and liking it, but it's also even harder for us to even imagine paying to see this movie. We're at that point now. We're at that point now where it's like,
where it used to be like we have to, but now it's like,
do we have
but
to?
this,
The Holdovers is coming out.
Yeah, go watch that. Or Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah. Or Taylor Swift.
Which I want to go see Taylor Swift.
I want to. Me too. And hilariously enough, but then also it made me quite sad when I read that Taylor Swift The Eras Tour this week surpassed Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
That is so funny though.
In the box office.
Honestly, good for her.
I mean, good for her, but Dead Reckoning is a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie. I purchased it on disc. I think it was last week. It's such a shame. I think it was bad enough that it was.
I had a conversation at my work. I think it was yesterday, because I had a coworker who her daughter wanted to go see the Eras tour, and she was like, "No, you can go by yourself." And then she was like, "Who wants to go see Taylor Swift?" Like, no. And then I'm like, honestly, I would go see her. And she was like, "Really?" And I like told her like, just for support, you know, like because of what she did. And she's like, "Oh, that's actually kind of cool."
Ignorance. Ignorance can be quite grating, can it? Also, apologies. There's an airplane flying over my house right now, so if you hear things, it's one of those shows.
I've had my dad dying.
It's one of those shows, people. Oh God. So, what's the point of any of this? I don't know, guys. I just feel like we're at the point where I think the days of us giving a shit about Marvel are over. Mm-hmm. And if we're being honest, even more honest with ourselves, I think they've been over for a while now.
Yeah.
I think they need to take like a year break. And take just kind of
break. And honestly,
you know,
I honestly thought Falcon's Captain America should have been like the next movie or something.
It should have. Where is it?
Yeah.
Why?
And if they want to like really make a change, start with that. Just like, you know, look back at that movie, see what you have, and move forward. And I mean, like, bring up like what has happened after the blip, after everyone came back. Like, give us that information. Like, make it set. We still don't know. Wait, no, I think we do know. The chords they're no longer in play, right? I think
She-Hulk confirmed that the Sokovia Accords were repealed, which was the best thing about She-Hulk, that asinine, you know, rule book was just, you know, torn to shreds. Mm-hmm. Real quick, David, if I'm not mistaken, what was it, the show here? Oh yes, this is big. She Who Shall Not Be Named was hearing from her very reputable sources that there was chatter over at Marvel Studios about them not being sure about whether or not they actually want to even do the Thunderbolts. And implying the possibility of them just saying, never mind, we're not going to do that movie after all.
Don't do it.
I think they are. But there's a lot of things in the wind right now where I mean, I'm sorry. I don't care because I've stopped caring about Marvel Studios. Maybe I would have at one point, like right after Endgame, but like, who cares about Fantastic Four? Who cares about the next Spider-Man? A lot of people do. I understand that. I mean, I don't care about Fantastic Four. I don't care about the next Spider-Man. The Tom Holland one, by the way. So I don't know. It's hard to see what would get me to care at this point. But I guess we'll find out. I want to use this to kind of, since I mentioned Tom Holland, some person out there was like, "What if he was cast in this?" Speaking of box office poison, where the hell is that hate coming? I mean, look, he's very charming, he's very popular, and he comes across like a wonderful human being, and nobody wants to see him fail. But he needs to fire his agent, and he needs to get the hell away from Sony because they keep putting him in crap.
Yeah,
that's the problem, and I don't understand why he's so insistent on doing this like hard edge, hardcore, like characters like something like Nicolas Cage would play. Like he needs to be doing romantic comedies. He needs to be like using his actual charm and putting that out there. And he's not doing any of that. Not to mention that he's just looked ugly in a lot of these recent roles. Like, who wants to see that? You've seen Cherry, one of the worst films I've ever seen. The Russos, in their brilliant mind, while he was being inspected, up the ass and everything, they had a shot as if the orifice was opening and you see the hole literally, and then the finger go in there. They framed a shot as if the asshole was opening. That's how brilliant, quote unquote, that movie was. But yeah, and you know what? In that last project, I saw some interviews with him. You could tell that it was getting to him that every project is just getting crapped on by critics. But I wonder why, dude. I wonder why. And the thing is this: he's friends with Timothée Chalamet, and he happens to be in a relationship with Zendaya, who does nothing but amazing work after amazing work. She's won like 2 Emmys, I want to say, or she's won at least 1 Emmy for Euphoria. It's like you can't just beg her, like, hey, give me a lifeline here, because everything that I'm doing is just getting destroyed and ripped to shreds by critics.
Yeah. And like, it's not him, because he's not bad.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah, like even in the movies that have come out, like he's not bad in them. It's just like, move on. Like they keep giving him the same character over and over again, and it's like, no, like you have other things.
And it comes across like every project he does, he's trying to like show how big of an actor he is.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to do that.
No,
I still think the best performance he's ever given us was his first movie, The Impossible, which came out 11 years ago with what was her name? Ewan McGregor was in it. It was the movie about a tsunami. You get, I believe it's on Netflix, and you can see it. I'm
so sorry.
Oh my god. Whoa.
I'm so sorry. Hopefully it's not that loud. Hopefully people think we're laughing at nothing.
Audacity.
But I think I saw the little squiggly lights.
Jesus. Anyway, why I mentioned Tom Holland was because it came out in the news today that Nintendo had given the film rights for their Legend of Zelda project to Sony, and that of all the producers, Avi Arad was given the helm to do so. And then, of course, how poetic, how one fan even suggested Tom Holland be in the movie.
No.
As if those previous names were bad enough. Weren't bad enough, I should say. They went ahead and went this extra direction. For those who are not aware, Avi Arad is responsible for, at Sony, all those Spider-Man spin-off movies like Morbius and Venom and Kraven the Hunter, which I forgot even existed. That was a terrible trailer. And then also the live action Ghost in the Shell, which was mired in controversy because they had to use visual.
Ghost in the Shell?
Well, he produced it, and I remember a big part of the controversy was that they had to use visual effects to make Scarlett Johansson look more Asian, which was right before it was it was like one of the last projects where that was okay to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
David, what do you think? You're the Zelda fan here.
Yeah, I'm very sad about this news, honestly.
How could you not be?
I know. One thing, and it's gonna sound kind of weird, but like I really wish I could have written like a Legend of Zelda movie. But,
you
but
still
that's
can.
just, I mean, that's just a far.
Write it.
Yeah, but I also kind of wish Zelda might have been animated and DreamWorks would have taken that because they.
Oh my god!
Would have worked so well. I mean, DreamWorks should have been doing all Nintendo stuff. But,
right.
As much as I like the Mario movie, Illumination still wasn't the right fit. Hey, Illumination, I'll give you props. Your animation really improved, but it's still basic fucking story. And so yeah, Sony taking this on. Mind you, they also made Uncharted, which had Tom Holland in it, which is why he cannot be Link in this fucking movie. The movie itself was fine, but it's still. I'm very worried about this movie and the people behind it so far. Just nothing is sticking out to me. It's
a crazy thing to give to these people.
I mean, the director behind it, he did Maze Runner. That's an okay movie. Hopefully, maybe with Miyamoto, who creator of the fucking game, will probably be like, be
Wes Ball is his name, and one thing to keep an eye out of what makes him interesting. I've never seen the Maze Runner films, I never will, probably, but he apparently is the one who is going to helm the new Planet of the Apes movie, which, speaking of, had a trailer drop recently. Just quickly, any thoughts on that trailer?
It looks nice. I was surprised that this takes place like generations after the third one, apparently. And so I'm curious how this one's gonna go.
I hope it works out okay. I love that franchise.
I know. That trilogy was fantastic.
It's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly. So you'd hope for the best, but if it's good, maybe that gives some hope for this film.
Yeah.
And apparently this director had a canceled film, Mouse something, and some concept art came out. You can look for it on Twitter quickly. And some people were saying, well, maybe this guy has an eye for Zelda after all. You never know.
Yeah.
Of all the things attached, he's the least depressing part of this.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's just, the thing though is there's gonna be we're gonna have for Zelda fans, we're gonna have high standards for this movie. Like we want this to be absolutely great.
Like I feel like it's crazy because for Mario, like people had high expectations for this movie, but like this is like another.
Yeah, people are gonna have higher expectations for this one.
Yeah.
Especially
real quick, guys. Some breaking news just happened, which is important stuff. It's not related to anything. In the state of Ohio, voters approved a ballot measure that would enshrine the right to abortion in the state constitution. So that is a big, big news item for women and their right to autonomy over their own bodies. And also a further indication about how this these thugs that are on the Supreme Court are so tone deaf, and they've not realized the waking sleeping giant that they brought up here, because there are a lot of people who are standing up to a lot of these medieval ideas and saying fuck no. Now, I don't know how that manifests in a presidential election. Not thinking about that. But at least Evil lost on that ballot today, which is good to hear about. And just wanted to put that out there. I'm sorry. Continue what you were saying.
No, yeah, like I said, people have really high standards going on for this movie. There's a lot of material to work on. Don't throw it in all at once, please. That is the bad.
Sony, man, so many bad movies, especially films that were meant to be the first installment of a future universe. They have continually like fumbled on this.
Here's the thing I'm curious about with Sony is that do they care about this franchise? And what I mean though,
why did Nintendo give it to them?
I know. I honestly trust Disney more than Sony on that. Honestly.
I thought they were gonna give this to Universal.
Oh, Universal, true.
See, I was under the impression they were developing an animated film, which is why we thought it would be Illumination. But if it's live action, Universal Studios is right there.
Yeah, you already worked with them. They made you Nintendo Land. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can't imagine the Universal people were happy about this decision. Not at all.
Yeah, but what I mean with Sony, if they care about this franchise, from what it seems like, whichever movie they just don't really care about turns out to be great. And with the ones that they do really care about and try to like really see every single second of the progress of it.
Are you saying that movie executives are dumb?
Yeah.
Because you get the impression, going a little bit back to Marvel real quick, that they have no faith in Echo. What if it's good? Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah. And then with Sony, when the first Spider-Man movie came out, Tobey Maguire, I'm pretty sure they were just kind of like, we got the rights for this. Let's just like make a movie. Great. Then they decided to be like, hey, we can make a franchise out of this. Amazing Spider-Man comes out. Then they really try to set up Sinister Six, and it fucking tanked. And mind you, Spider-Man 3 with Tobey's, that was when they were starting to be like, okay, let's keep this going. Let's make this into a really big franchise. And then they try to force what was the director's name?
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi. They were like forcing him to make all these add on these villains that he didn't even want. He didn't want Venom at all. And I can't remember if he wanted Sandman at all, but yeah, he for sure did not want Venom in his movie, but they forced him to put it in. And yeah. And then comes then the Tom Holland movies come out, but that one I think they were a bit more restricted, you know. They couldn't use all of Marvel stuff, but they really wanted to like put in Marvel MCU stuff and all that. And you know, they made a cool movie. Spider-Verse though, that one, they did not care. They really didn't. They were just like, we have the rights for this. We need something of our own. And the creators of it, the creators of it, they were like, they didn't want to be involved in the beginning, but they thought, okay, let's give them an idea, one that they would have to say no, which is, we want to make this we want to make this look like a comic book as much as we can. And so they just went, yeah, sure, do whatever you want. And we got Spider-Verse. So like whenever it's a movie that they just kind of like, they know they can make something out of it, but they don't really care much about it, that's when they make a good movie.
It just makes you think. I wonder how much better things would be if executives just like were a little bit more hands off.
It's okay to just think of the business side of things. Like, it's perfectly fine. You know, again, with this movie, with Legend of Zelda, they have a movie here. This movie has a more of a chance.
Writes itself.
It writes itself. Yeah, has more of a chance to be better box office wise than Mario movie. Like, it's all right there. Just let the creators be creative, you know. And it's okay to like, and to me, business wise, it's smart to like spread it out. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just be like, we just want this villain in this movie right now, and then that's it.
Well, I guess we'll see how it turns out. Before we get on to the movies, I wanted to play for you a clip from the Next Best Picture podcast. I actually shared those clips with you guys today earlier about some interesting things that could happen on something we all discussed last week, which was the number of nominations that Barbie could receive at the Academy Awards. And I know for many years now, many of us have been very one of the categories that more often than not enrages us because of who's included and who's not and who wins and who didn't is best original song. So with that, I'm gonna play this clip. I don't know if you guys heard it already. Did you?
I did.
Okay, I'm gonna just bear with me here, okay?
Let's say only 2 songs from Barbie end up getting into Best Original Song. I think that's like the thing now, right? Like you can't have.
Which, by the way, they're gonna submit 3: "Dance the Night" by Dua Lipa, "I'm Just Ken," and then "What Was I Made For." They officially confirmed they're gonna submit 3, but because of recent rule changes, only up to 2 songs can be nominated per movie. Which I think is pretty stupid, but okay, whatever. That's what they ended up deciding.
Anymore, you can submit 3, but I think you can only have 2 get in.
Exactly. So which 2 do you think are getting in?
I'm Just Ken and the Billie Eilish song.
See, I actually have a lot of suspicion about I'm Just Ken because
Me too.
Yes, that is the signature song I feel like from that movie for sure, and a lot of people do love it, but it also has a lot of stuff that I don't really feel like the branch goes for. Like it's an overtly comedic song, which tends to struggle. It has a dance break in the middle of it, which also they tend to not really like. I feel like people are setting themselves up that this is a guarantee, and I do not think it is a guarantee to get nominated.
I completely agree.
I almost think it's like in Kanto with We Don't Talk About Bruno, where it's like the bigger hit didn't get nominated, and yet they still find a way to somehow convince Ryan Gosling to perform it on the ceremony, despite it's not nominated.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Mary Poppins Returns coming out a few years ago, and everybody was talking about that freaking song with the
chimney sweeps
that were chimney sweeps or whatever. I don't remember that movie. And I was all season saying, no, it's going to be the ballad. It's going to be the ballad. That's how they always go, and that's how it ended up being. You know, I'm scrolling right now. I can't even find the last time a song that was this overtly comedic was nominated. You know, there was
South Park
a few years ago. Yeah, there was Who's a Fake a few years ago, but that song is not funny.
No, yeah, the same with like serious song.
Exactly. I mean, When a Cowboy Trades His First for Wings is kind of amusing, I guess, but the tone of the song is not.
Oh, next one. Sorry.
Trying to make you laugh. Like, that's just not kind of the thing they go for recently.
I will say what I think does help I'm Just Ken, besides it being like an integral song to the film in the middle for that character, is that there's a pretty strong chance Ryan Gosling could get a supporting actor nomination. If you're going to play his clip, it's literally going to be the scene where he's walking and he's doing the gestures as he's singing I'm Just Ken at the end. Like, they're going to want, like, if these strike, like, ends amicably soon, you know, they're going to want Barbenheimer. They're going to want Gosling performing it. I really feel that they're going to go with I'm Just Kidding. I'm not saying it's going to win or nothing. I think, you know, they'll probably lean more towards the Billie Eilish song, but I've seen a lot of conversation about, like, you know, maybe the Dua Lipa song instead of I'm Just Kidding, which to me that feels more like the song in Top Gun last year that plays on the beach that misses. Like, it's just a fun, you know, poppy song compared to like I'm Just Ken is to a lot of people like some of the highlight of that film.
I don't tell you the highlight.
Yeah.
Well, What Is I Made For is a song that I keep hearing on the radio. I keep hearing it played in department stores I walk into.
I heard at the airport the other day.
Yep.
I just think it's funny that, you know, we're not even saying which Barbie song is going to get in or potentially could win. It's like, what's the second one that's going to get in? It's just so strong right now.
Color Purple.
Okay. So, a couple of troubling things that were said there. Because if you ask me, if you're not even going to nominate I'm Just Ken for Best Original Song, I feel like that would be such a travesty. You should just cancel the category. Cancel the category and never bring it back. That's how passionately I feel. And I never say that. But it's like, I'm sorry. Not only should it be nominated, it should win in a landslide. It's a musical number inside the most watched movie of the year.
Do you think Taylor Swift has a chance of being
For what?
nominated
For what? What did she write?
for the Eras Tour?
I don't think that counts on it.
I don't think it counts
Why?
because
It's a movie.
because it has to. Yes, it is, but it has to be a song written for it. So unless it was like if it was like an original track that was written for the release of the movie, not the concert, but the release of the movie, then it would qualify.
Dang.
But it would be funny though.
It would be amazing. Didn't she? Was it her? Didn't she do a song though this year for a movie?
I think they tried to submit All Too Well last year, because she did the All Too Well short movie, which she also tried to get nominated, but like the Academy slammed the door hard on her. That was one of the only times I think she outright failed. Was like she tried to get nominations for that for best short film. And it's like yeah, it's okay. But the thing is, I think maybe once she's been nominated. I think the Golden Globes have nominated her more for songs she's written for movies. The Academy has not responded that well to her specifically just yet. However, I would think that both I'm Just Ken and What Was I Made For will be nominated. Mm-hmm. Now the trick becomes
which one wins? I honestly will be surprised if I'm Just Ken wins. A good
because it's so obvious, but it's like it's in their nature to go for the one that's not so obvious. That being said, the Billie Eilish song wouldn't be a bad winner.
No, it's really good.
It's a really good song. It's also in maybe in more ways than I'm Just Ken, the song of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Billie Eilish is, and the thing is, she's already won. She's won once before, 2 years ago for James Bond.
Yep.
So she could win again.
And also, if they don't get Ryan Gosling to perform this song, they have truly failed. But I also think
hope Ryan Gosling agrees to it, because I want to say I remember he and Emma being asked to perform for the La La Land songs, and they were like, "Thanks, but no thanks. Let John Legend do it."
Yeah.
I hope they do it and just get all of the male actors sitting down.
Oh my god!
Just get them up and have them dance. That'd be so great.
Bradley Cooper put it all out there, and so did Lady Gaga in that performance. Brian and Emma should have done that too. They
should have. But it's also kind of funny if he does do this and he didn't do La La Land. Remember their reactions to the fumble? Oh my god. I still think about it. It's so funny.
I see Emma Stone like talking to someone
laughing,
on the back,
and he's just like,
yeah. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, they called the wrong movie, didn't they?
I spent so much of my life trying to block that out.
The reactions were funny though.
Yeah, they were. After. Oh, that was an old wound to reopen, that's for sure. Although we haven't talked about it lately, but I'm really getting excited for Bradley Cooper's new movie. I'm sure if you guys have heard about it. It's called Maestro. It is based on the relationship between Leonard Bernstein and his wife, played by Carey Mulligan. Both performances are being talked about as potential nominees for Best Lead Actor and Best Lead Actress. And the film has gotten really stellar reviews. Apparently it's a much harder swing than A Star Is Born was, which I thought A Star Is Born was very, very good. So interesting. There were some people saying that he might I don't think he hasn't won, has he, for acting?
No,
he hasn't.
No, because it was Jennifer Lawrence who won
for that movie, and I think Bradley Cooper would have won in a weaker year in that category, but he was up against Daniel Day-Lewis, who played Lincoln. So that was like, that was a tough category. But I still think, to me, my favorite performance
this year's going to be a tough tough category.
That's the thing. It's like, are we sure Cillian Murphy's got this? I think he deserves it. But does he got this? Because I think he's got competition from particularly Bradley Cooper. I think that because he looks amazing in those trailers.
Honestly, the actors on this year is gonna be really fun to watch.
Because we also have competing. Jeffrey Wright from American Fiction is competing and looking to get a nomination. Paul Giamatti from The Holdovers, and I think Leo DiCaprio. I don't think he'll win, but I think he'll be nominated because he's Leo and it's Killers of the Flower Moon. And that's honestly, now having seen it 4 times, which 16 hours.
God damn.
16 hours. I think it's a really good performance. It's very uncharacteristic for him to play a character like that, and I think he does an amazing job. And I think he does deserve a nomination.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think those are our 5: Leo, Paul, Jeffrey, Bradley, and Cillian. Which is stacked. That
do you
is
think fuck, what's his name? We were just talking about this movie.
Paul Giamatti?
No.
Cillian Murphy? Which movie?
The Ridley Scott one.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
His movies always get nominated, though.
There's a couple of problems. The field is already too stacked, and that film hasn't opened. If you're gonna be opening in late November, December, you're kind of already behind. And there's also the potentiality of it being moved to next year. Regardless of how good or not it is, it's hard to see him getting in. And because he already won pretty recently, I think people are good on awarding him. That's true. Although he should have won for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, not for The Revenant.
Yeah. Honestly, he should have.
Or Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street.
That was no. Don't even talk about that.
Who won that year? Was it McConaughey? I think it was Matthew McConaughey.
It was.
And I'm like,
the Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah. But you know what? This actually gives us a connection into something else that I also felt was something of an enigma because I had not seen it. The year 2016, where Ryan Gosling was nominated for Best Actor, but for La La Land. But I think in retrospect, still, he wouldn't. In that time, I would have loved for him to win, but I think in retrospect, I think it should have been Andrew Garfield's year for Silence, which is a film no one saw. Did you see Silence? Have you guys seen that movie?
I haven't finished it, but only because I was watching it with my roommate, and she was like, not
into it. She wasn't into it. Yeah, she's a normie. Can't appreciate real cinema.
But the things that I did watch were.
You got to finish it because it's brutal. And he's amazing, and he goes through hell, and he should have been nominated. He was, but for a different movie, which is also
Wasn't
kind
he
of
nominated?
Hacksaw Ridge.
That's a good movie.
It's a good movie, and he was great in it. But he was he should have been for Silence. But the person that ended up winning that year was Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea, which is a film that David was referencing, I think it was last week or the week before, about a film that he actually really enjoyed. And I had not seen it up until this past weekend. Cool. It was on Amazon Prime, and I played it, and I've got a lot of thoughts about it. On the whole, they're very positive thoughts, because I think it's I'm very happy I waited until 2023, because I don't think 2016 me would have appreciated that film nearly as much as I do now. And correct me if I'm wrong, David, but just real quick stuff. Affleck deserved that win. Mm-hmm. He was great. Mm-hmm. And the film in and of itself was very surprising in how it chose to reveal certain things. There's a sequence in the middle toward the latter half of the film where you end up being revealed what exactly happened to this guy to end up being so depressed. And it is heart-wrenching. I was shaking, like literally when I was putting together like what happened. But the visuals are beautiful, amazing. The score is fantastic. Michelle Williams devastated me in that scene where she was like, I love
Mm.
it was so, I mean, she probably should have won for that, just that one scene.
I think people were like, she didn't get nominated, I think.
She did.
Oh, she
for
did.
Best
Okay,
Supporting,
but she didn't win. Yeah. But no, yeah, she was fantastic in it, and especially that one scene between the two of them. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was.
And the thing is, I kept thinking so much in the way that it opens and it closes, so much in the way that the score is used, so much in the way how the visuals add on to the icy isolation of what's going on with our characters.
Mm-hmm.
I kept thinking so much of a different movie that is a perfect companion piece, because that also has all those features, but is also a film about isolation, and that is The Banshees of Inisherin.
Oh, right. Yeah. I forgot that movie for a second. Sorry.
No, that's good. It's good. I mean, it's because you kicked it out of your top 10, remember? You kicked out of your top 10 for Mrs. Harris.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think that's why you blocked it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those two films go well together.
Yeah, I think so. Especially because like it's on a tiny setting, and so
by the water too.
Yeah.
Cold.
Mm-hmm.
And also about grief, in a way, more so Manchester, but also with Banshees had a different take or twist on it. But still, it's about people who are not very happy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it might not sound like the funnest movie to watch, and it's not. It's actually quite devastating, but it is so worth it. I was like, this is really good. This is really good.
For sure.
And it by the way, it won for Casey Affleck that year, and it also won for Best Screenplay for Kenneth Lonergan. And I think it was well-deserved, you know, looking back on it. Mm-hmm. So it's streaming on Amazon Prime for those that want to see it. So before we end up doing another 3-hour show, let's just go ahead and get to the movie review that we're here to do or to talk about this year. I mean, not this year. Today. Sorry, I'm tired. All right. So the film that we're talking about today is one that I mentioned before a few weeks ago, but nobody else had seen. But thankfully, both of these two people saw. And it was actually a film that was released back in June, and it got so much praise. This is the directorial debut for Celine Song, called Past Lives. It stars Greta Lee, Teo Yu, and John Magaro. And this is the description provided to us by Letterboxd. Nora and Haesong, two deeply connected childhood friends, are wrest apart after Nora's family emigrates from South Korea. 20 years later, they are reunited for one fateful week as they confront notions of love and destiny. You know, watching this film, I was just almost instantly struck with how intimate and how personal it was. And I was really struck with at a certain point, I think I just forgot I was watching a movie, and I was really learning about these two people as individuals. And I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about it. But I know that watching the film, there were so many sequences where I was left really moved, you know, by the idea of these two people who had a really strong connection at one point, but then one relocated. One relocated away, and they had no contact for a whole 12 years, and then they just have an off encounter online. And to me, the two lead actors were absolutely magnetic. I was just in the movie the whole way through. Obviously the film is aiming for and is going to leave you with a melancholic vibe. But to me, one of the best ways I can describe this film is it's quietly devastating. And for me, one of the reasons for why it ended up working so well was because it just it also, in a way, reminded me of why Boyhood worked so well with me, because it reminded me of places I've been in my life and people who I've had in my life. And not to compare, the relationship that these two characters have to other people that I've met in my life, but there are plenty of people who I've met at different points who I no longer have contact with. And it just made me think of, like, what would it be like if some person I hadn't talked to in 10 plus years and 20 plus years, if we were in that situation. And I mean, there are plenty of people who I would give anything to have that opportunity with, who are still around, but we just don't have to have any more contact with. And for me anyway, I thought it was extremely moving, and the performances were very reserved, but still powerful all the same. And then also, let's not forget John Magaro here, who plays the husband, and the role that he has to play in this as well, which is also very surprising, because when he was first introduced, and then later when they talk about High Song, by the way, at this point, spoilers, you kind of get the idea that they're going to use that trope of the jealous, husband and him being threatened. And on some level he was, but not really though. Like, and they take it in a far more mature, they deal with it in a much more mature way that enhances that character, enhances that performance, but also enhances the film overall. I loved it. You guys?
I did too. I feel like there's so much that you could say about this movie, or like to think about. Like, it leaves you. And you know what? Like, when you said that it reminds you of Boyhood, it reminded me of La La Land, where it's kind of the same situation, except they do show you the what if, whereas here they don't.
Oh yes, the ending of La La Land. Oh god, you have to remind me of that ending. Oh my god.
And that La La Land has always stayed with me since the first time I watched it. Like, it's one of the movies I think about a lot.
No small part in thanks to Darth Vader.
Yes.
Can you please explain that reference?
Do you know what happened to me?
Wait, what are you saying?
I think Alexis and I saw La La Land together at one of the theaters in Chula Vista, and in a very quiet, intimate part of the film, Alexis sat on a keychain, I believe, or something. Was it a keychain? Her Darth Vader keychain. She sat on it, and while everybody in the theater was so quiet, you hear, and then everybody in our group just starts laughing.
Oh my god!
It was like a moment where it just went completely silent too. But yeah, it gave me that feeling of like, and I like things that make me feel sad, which I know is like,
you should though. Okay. It makes you feel. It reminds you.
It makes me feel
seen
being. Because it's
right, because we're sad all the time, right?
Yeah,
bunch of sad sex.
Like, it just, it reminds you that, like, it's okay to have like
feelings,
not good feelings at all, and I feel like it when you see movies like this, it helps you be like, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with these things, so that's why I really like the movie. I loved every single character. I had like a moment where I could not handle it. I think my favorite character, though, out of all of them, has to be the husband.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I watched it again this past weekend, and I was like, "Wow, like he's a really big part of this." And
his line when they're in bed, I literally, he said it, and I turned to David and just start bawling. I was like,
"Which one?" Because there's a lot of them in that scene.
Oh my god, when he said,
feel like this
you make my world so big, I just wish that, or I hope that I would do the same for you. It just literally killed me.
There's another line in that same scene. You dream in a language that I can't understand. It's like there's this whole place inside you where I can't go.
Oh my god.
Like the screenplay, I'm sorry right now. I mean, I know that it's a stacked, year, but it will be a crime against humanity if nothing else. This doesn't get a nomination for screenplay.
Even
I would love to read the script
the
for
other
that.
guy, when he tells her, I liked you because you were you. Kill me.
And you had to leave because you were you.
Oh
There's
my
like
god.
this.
And even the part, oh my god, I think I really like this part where they were left alone, both guys at the bar, and he tells them, we're also each other's in you.
In you, yeah.
Please. And the husband's like, yeah, I know. Please. And it was also funny because we watched this movie with my dad, and we asked him, like, do you want to see it? And it was another what's the other movie with the Irish one?
Banshees of Inisherin.
Where we're like, oh, do you want to watch it? And he's like, if I start falling asleep, I'm gonna go to bed. And we were like, okay. He was crying at the end of the movie.
Wow.
Yeah, both Banshees and this one. He just stayed for the entire thing. It's always fun when that happens.
And the moment where we were all literally panicking, and I explained it to David like this, where how you, Alexis, and Peter have this thing where if you see like embarrassing moments in movies, like you just cringe that you just can't watch it. Yeah, my thing was when the two of them were talking in front of the husband in a different language. I could not handle that. I literally was like, you need to stop. You need to stop right now. It was giving me like panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
That scene you talked about, I saw it just today before we got on the show, just to finish off my rewatch, and I couldn't breathe. It's so rare to be so arrested in the moment, to be so in the moment like that, where you're just like waited with bated breath.
Yeah, and it's literally just two people talking.
Yes,
but
that's cinema.
Yes. I don't know. I love that scene, but I'm also like, I can't watch that just because, again, I think that the husband is my favorite character in this movie, and like I haven't been in that position, but I understand, like, you're not part of this, like I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's awkward for sure, to say the least.
I really like this movie, and then at the end, when she starts crying, because like throughout the whole movie, like my dad was making commentary of like, oh hell no, like like I would be throwing hands, and it's so funny
if he was the husband in that situation.
Yeah, and
a lot of guys would. That's the reality. A lot of men would.
That's what I told him, like, at the end of the movie, because he's like, if that were me, like, I would be like, do you even like care about me? And I'm like, but that's like I think the whole point is like it wasn't about him.
Mm-hmm.
It was about her, and not even the other guy. This was about her. Mm-hmm. She literally told us, that she loved him, and she wasn't gonna go anywhere. Like, we had absolutely no reason to not trust her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even think she's crying because of him. I think she's just crying because of what could have been her life. Not even with him, just her life in general.
Right.
If she hadn't gone away,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was like hitting her. And like the fact that he wasn't angry. Like, yes, he was gonna be self-conscious about it. Like, who was it? Who wouldn't be? But I think that the fact that he was so like mature about it and understood that he tells her too, like, I know you, like, I know that you wouldn't, but I still have these feelings. And the fact that she also like let him talk about it and open up about it,
and nobody was. And the thing is, like, yes, I love it so much, but like even that, there's so many layers of complexity, because we've seen movies that have relationships like these do it in the most boring way possible, where like people would like be talking over each other, they'd be yelling, they'd be blowing up, nothing. And the thing is, it's so refreshing to see a film actually deal in relationships that are healthy and honest and open,
Yes.
you know, with the way that they should be.
Yes.
You know, not with, you know,
Yeah,
being quick to violence
yeah.
or all this other crap.
I think that's what I was like trying to tell my dad.
Mhm.
It didn't come off that way, I think.
Mhm.
But to his comment of like, oh no, I would have immediately like blamed her or said something that like would make her feel guilty about having feelings and about the situation that she's lived that I will never understand. I don't know.
But to also to explore a little bit where your dad would be coming from, where a lot of men would be coming from is, and you also you do see layers of it here with John Magaro, who plays the husband here, but like you see the fear, you see the worry in his face, because even he's and I love that he said it, because they're both writers. That's how they meet together at a writer's retreat. But he even says like, this is such a perfect story. How can I compete?
Yeah.
In the movies that we see, I'm the person that people root
my
against. And the thing is, not just with him, but with every performance in this film, so much is said with just this, with their eyes and their facial expressions.
I literally said so much was there's very little dialogue, but so much was said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel for him, and it's like, and the thing is, like, he's being such a big guy for allowing this to happen. Now,
and even like saying that, like, I feel like that is like the first thing that we think of, allowing this to happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Which is really what I meant to say is like, because that's how most guys treat it. Where the reality is like, it's not his decision; it's hers.
Yeah,
she ultimately should have full autonomy as to what decision she makes about who she has in her life. You know, God, there's just so many perspectives to deal with this from, because
and like even with I'm sorry,
Song.
Yes, him, like his growth throughout the movie as well is like,
I mean, there's
crazy.
Their initial reconnection, I was in tears. Just like you felt the power of two people reconnecting for the first time in 12 years. And you just couldn't help but think of yourself, if you were in that position, saying hi to an old friend who knows if they're even out there anymore. And the thing, it felt so natural. Again, like it felt you weren't even watching a movie at some point. And it's just so amazing to think how 12 years apart and that magic came back just like that. And you felt them, obviously he had feelings for her, and she hadn't thought about him until he initiated and reconnected with her. But then again, this is why the screenplay is so great, because it gets to a point where, and you see on her face when she makes the decision, and she's like, because she has to ask him, are you ever going to come here? And I can't go over there. And then she's like, I can't be sitting here because I'm looking up flights to go see you in in Korea. And the thing is that in and of itself is such a resonant line, because I'm happy that we also have a film here where we have a female protagonist who is not, forced to give up her career for some guy. And at no point does she ever entertain that. She even repeats that later in the film. That would never have happened in the first place, because she values her career, as she should, more than a romantic relationship. But then, because it was heartbreaking to hear her say, like, we have to stop talking. I all but shut down when Song said to her, it took me 12 years to find my friend. And of course I get a cough at the end of that. Oh my God. That was the perfect timing. I don't know if anybody at the podcast can hear this, but like, just, you hear the cough and like,
I can hear her, so
oh my God.
It probably got picked up.
It took me 12 years to find my friend. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. And David, sorry,
David's here.
No, I this wasn't me like not being able to figure out what to say. It's just the reason why I stay quiet is because we
wouldn't let you talk. I'm sorry. We were just talking over you.
No, it's fine. Probably the reason why I was staying quiet is because I feel like this movie didn't hit me as hard as you guys. I really liked it, but for many different reasons. I think from you guys, so that's why I was waiting for my turn.
Sure.
And so, no, yeah, like I said, I really did like this movie. I love scenes in movies where there's just very little dialogue, and this one had like very, very little dialogue. But like I said, but so much is being said just by through their acting or from the silence too.
Look at that image behind you, David.
Yeah.
That you put up on the screen. So much of the movie relies on those two actors looking at each other, and you're so mesmerized. There's nothing being said. That's the power of filmmaking. That's the power of cinema. How impressive is this? This is a directorial debut. This is her first movie.
Yeah, and she really tried to like use stock footage, I guess you could say, to really like fill in the gaps of those moments and all that. And I love the
couple of things real quick. I don't want to cut you off, but this is important. Her background is mainly in the theater, so you see her strength as a playwright really help in this film. But also to that, not that I think it harms the film in any way, but this was filmed during COVID, so I think by design,
that's interesting.
It needed to be economical, and they needed to be like in a lot of the spaces. Yeah, she made it work. I don't think I personally like couldn't really tell there was, I guess, budgetary like restraints. Like I didn't think of that at all.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, she, like I said, she really relied on just other stock footage to kind of fill in the gaps and all that. But also really did like her imagery on certain moments with them together. You know, the first one is when they both separate when they're little kids and all that. But also like the imagery of when they're together. I guess maybe you can say when they're most entertained is in the beginning. There's that art thing with the big face on it. You know, they're facing each other, but there's like a stick in the middle, basically showing like they're together, but something is separating them. And then later
it's the fork in the road.
And then later on, when they first meet in New York, it's another piece of art in the back. It's two of them facing away from each other, and another fork in the road, where there's this like they're together, but they're distant.
Not gonna work out.
They're distant. It's not gonna work. But then at the very end, it's just that gate, that little blue gate, where it's just it's just them together. It's not this perfect thing. It's not this perfect relationship. They're not gonna. They're together, but they're gonna be apart from now on. And so it wasn't. It's not life getting in the way or anything like that. It's just they're not.
The way
they're
separate.
It is. It's just the way it is. Yeah. And so, like I said, she relied on the imagery, which is why I like this movie. The other thing I liked is the relationship. This wasn't like when they were together, this wasn't like they're always having fun with each other or anything, or they're always making jokes with each other. Like, no, every single time they meet, it's just silence. They're comfortable with each other, and that's part of what makes their relationship great. Is just that I don't know what it is, but I just know I can be me with you. Whereas when she is with her husband, though, it's like I think they both know that they bring out the best in each other somehow, because they're both writers. You know, they're both trying to push each other to do bigger things, and she can't be that with Hai Sung. One of them will literally have to give up their life to be with each other. And
I mean, she even says in that conversation with her husband in the beginning, where she keeps saying he's so Korean. You know,
that's also the weird thing.
But that's another aspect there. It's like, it's not just that she's longing. It never is that she's just longing for him or longing for a life with him.
Yeah,
a life of her homeland, her home country. Like, what would it have been like if she had remained in Korea?
And that's the other thing too. It's like I said, there's this thing between them that like they can just be each other, but at the same time, they're not the same person because they both lived and had very different lives, and she doesn't.
Right.
But that's probably what makes it uncomfortable at times, is that she can't relate to him because he is so Korean and she is Korean Canadian, because she was in Canada, wasn't she?
Yeah, she went to Toronto.
Yeah, so
which immediately made me think of Turning Red.
Same.
Because that's word, right? I was like, which is a really great movie that I was the only person to put in their top 10 for whatever reason last year. I just wanted to put that out there. And hey, who's that? Continue.
No, I think that's it. Like I said, it didn't hit me as hard as you guys, but like I understood everything.
Watch it again. Maybe watch it again. Give it some time and watch it again. I think
again.
We have to be clear though. Like, there are plenty of movies that I watched the first time that didn't really hit me the way that it was supposed to until a couple of rewatches, And then there are also films that you watch the first time, they hit you really hard, but then after a while, they don't work with you the same way that it did. So the thing is, our relationship with movies will continue to change as we grow older and older. So, and I'm not saying that you're invalid. No, you're perfectly valid for feeling the way that it is, and you still really like the film. So a couple of things.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go.
Well, yeah, like I said, it didn't hit me emotionally, but like I just understood everything that that the director was trying to do with this movie. All those silences, what she was trying to say in each and every one of those, I didn't understood it all. It just didn't hit me.
Yeah, personally, it is Greta Lee, who is of course playing Nora here in this film. She has to navigate so much, and I think after having gone through that whole ordeal in the film, it's really earned that last shot where she's just like, she breaks, and that alone I think should warrant at the very least a conversation for her being included in Best Actress. I don't know if she's not going to get nominated because it's too small of a film and it came out too early in the year. But like Across the Spider-Verse, another great film that probably won't get the nominations it's owed. But I still think Past Life has a good chance at a Best Picture nom and a Best Screenplay nom because they're that good. And I would also champion this for Best Original Score nomination because I love the score in this film. It's not, maybe it doesn't stick with you at first because it's like it, but sometimes the best scores you don't notice yet until you go back and hear them. But I love the score as well. Now we're gonna have a little bit more to say on this. If mind, I want to read from an article by Brendan Hodges, one of the critics that I really have grown to like and has like really great input on movies and everything. He wrote a piece about the liminal spaces of past lives. So if you could, please bear with me. Hopefully this won't be that long, but this is what it says here. Talking about like all the different spaces in this movie: an artist residency at golden hour, a city park thick with trees, and an amber lit nighttime bar are a few of the carefully chosen locations featured in Past Lives, which uses place, image, and sound to gently capture profound revelations about the lives we live and some of the lives that we didn't. Song, that's the director, uncovers these revelations through her own life as a Korean immigrant who fell in love across continents and decades and reunited with a childhood sweetheart. This actually happened, by the way, parts of it, after she was married to someone else. From the deceptively smallest of stories, Song effortlessly bottles, as though she's catching lightning, how life can be transient but connected, chanced and faded, ephemeral yet everlasting. To try and do justice to all Song has to say and how elegantly she can say it turns casual chatter into half-conjured lyricism. Past Lives inspires the lyrical and the lofty. To describe it in ordinary or casual terms seems impossible. But while we try, perhaps clumsily, to express all Past Lives has to offer us, Song's done it through the tools of cinema. She's no stranger to how specifics of a story's environment radically reshape how we feel. In 2020, Song, originally a playwright, updated Chekhov's classic The Seagull through the virtual proscenium of The Sims 4. The performance was streamed on Twitch with a voice cast, and Song not only replied to the live commenters watching in, but she let them influence the show. It was a unique achievement in multimedia storytelling, revealing an artist with a keen sense of how form influences we engage with stories, or maybe how from influences. Video games are an interactive medium, and film isn't. Still, The same ethos is infused in every moment of past lives, which, like the visual storytelling of other films, curates the geography of urban architecture as a metaphor for internalized human feeling. That's what you said, David, because you see that the architecture that we see on their first date in Korea, and then also when they actually for reals meet up in person 20 years later. You'll know what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Song's surrogate in Nora, a playwright whom we first meet in a bar at a distance with two men beside her, and soon after a child up close. Like Todd Field's Tar, the introductory minutes of past lives follow an unknown character, another patron at the bar, speculating. The opening is great. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Speculating who this unlikely trio is at this bar past midnight and what they might mean to each other. The unnamed speaker makes guesses, trying to piece together new combinations, and may explain this odd apparent throuple. Song's prologue is a trick of point of view and a lesson in context. Initially, Arthur seems like a forgotten third wheel, but by the end, it's clear his silence is an act of espousal trust, a discovery earned slowly as Song lets the intricate narrative threads of her story unspool. At almost empty late night bar is a perfect first venue for Song's purposes because, like nearly every location in past lives, it has the quality of the liminal. It is a place that is both public and private, with invisible walls that separate groups and couples, transparent boundaries that allow voyeurs from without and intimacy within. Like most of the arousing backdrops featured across the film's multiple cities and continents, it's a place you're eventually expected to leave. Dear few scenes take place inside rooted nest or a home or an apartment. Instead, the drama is set almost entirely in locations that imply transit, loss, or change. Boats, trains, airports, parks, libraries, hotels, sky trams, and many car rides. The handful of scenes that do take place in a home welcomes the liminal like an invasive force. Nora's first reconnection with High Song since childhood is filtered through unstable, low bandwidth video, emphasizing how fleeting their new bond truly is. Further, when we meet Nora as a child, it's another place between places, another under a canopy of electrical wires as she and High Song walk home from school. When they first hold hands, it's in the backseat of a car in motion. Nora's Korean name is Na Young, and when she's asked to choose a new one, which is Nora Moon, her parents are already packing to leave. When we first meet Nora and Arthur as a married couple, it's not in the warm domain of their Brooklyn flat, but in an airport terminal. Another of past lives' many arrivals and departures. Similarly, we can look at how Song quietly dwells on the train cars and ferries as Nora and High Song ride them, traveling to a final destination of a park overlooking a panorama of bridges and boats, a living map of a population in phases of crossing. That's the image you see behind David right there, that scene. These locations bear the markers of passing and transference, emotional and physical, asking us and her characters what we can leave behind and what we can't. It's a question of where we move, how our goals evolve, and how our agency influences how some relationships blossom and others wither. Which parts of our identity can we let shift? These are the universal questions explored through Song's specific lens. Unpacking the immigrant experience in equally liminal space or terms as an airport terminal or Shanghai hotel room, caught between cultures. After Nora and High Sung's first outings as adults, Nora confesses she feels less, but also more Korean when she's with him. The paradox of the diasporic identity she's still trying to process. He's so Korean, she says, reminding her of a culture she feels once belonged to her and no longer fully does. When Nora's mom is asked why the family is moving around, she answers, "If we leave something behind, you gain something too." This is the film's thesis statement, but it could be a trying platitude. Song treats it as both, acknowledging the honest messiness and emotional complexity that comes from being between places, between romances, between identities. There's the old axiom: the more specific the story, the more universal it feels. Past Lives proves it's true. Almost done, guys. Stay with me. Eventually, Song lets us get to know Nora, Song, and Arthur, but on her terms and her way. Like the transparent boundaries she creates around her characters, she has boundaries too, some figurative, but many literal. She decides how close we're allowed to get to Nora and, by extension, herself, alternating traditional close-ups with compositions that distance us. Song constantly uses frames within frames. Characters positioned inside doorways, train windows, house windows, car windows, hotel windows, phone windows, and computer windows. When we see Nora and Song's hands holding a metal beam on a train for support, that's the poster of the movie, by the way, their hands are nearly overlapping, almost primed to consummate their meeting with an extramarital holding of hands. We see it through an extramarital, we see it through another train car's window. That's right. We see Arthur for the first time through the window of the artist's residency. We see when Song asks Nora to visit him in Seoul, they mutually realize it won't work, and the camera rests on a window looking outside as the day turns into night, setting the sun in their hopes for a relationship. Wow, I didn't catch any of this. Inside Nora and Arthur's apartment, Song sometimes frames their bedroom cuddles and pillow talk through the door's wide windows, returning us to the point of view of the opening scene, as a voyeur, a guest in these characters' lives. And our last glimpse of Song in the final seconds of Past Lives is through the window of a car taxiing him to the airport, the film's final farewell. Almost there, guys. I wanted to organize this piece around Song's matrix of visual symbols, breaking them down through a few categories like airports, boats, cars, and restaurants. I found it an impossible task. Song's transitory spaces aren't just those that bring bodies from one place to another. They are porous, leaking through time and memory. This begins with a few delicate split-second flashbacks. The flashes of reminiscence to Nora and Song as kids when they first meet in a New York City park, or a glimpse of the bifurcated street in childhood that signified their separate paths in this life. I say this life because as Past Life ends, Song invokes the Korean concept of inyun, the idea that either signifies how relationships are cosmically fated over 8,000 lifetimes, or chanced interaction, or maybe just that person who mentions it. For Song, it's probably both. He longingly tells Nora he'll catch her in the next life cycle, adding another layer of their life in 8,000, which, by the way, that line was, see you next when we're dead. Sorry, that's what I thought. I was like, yeah. Past Lives begins with children catching the sparks of early love, and ends not with death, but with a recognition of our mortality. This signals that each life and each moment is just the past tense for some future self in this future or the next, infusing each meeting with inyun, or maybe the reminiscence of to come. By revealing past lives as a kind of extended flashback for the possible future lives of Nora, Song, and Arthur, with bookends between past and future, the film becomes the ultimate liminal space as a life between lives, a space between spaces, or maybe just between childhood and old age. In a post-film Q&A, I was surprised to hear that Song has a degree in philosophy and an MFA in playwriting. She wields the heady rigor of a philosopher with the grace of a narrative artist, expressing complex, deeply melancholic, time-warping notions of our reality and how our lives are lived through the understated elegance of visual poetry, using every location, shape, curve, or window as a new stanza. There are not many movies that rewrite how I experience time and place in it, but proudly, Past Lives is one of them. I had not read this piece before, but I had realized it would be something that would add something of an extra layer to this, and I was like, oh, okay, you looked into this, like, whoa. And none of this stuff that he mentioned there even occurred to me. But so much of the film is just from them getting from one place to the other on different modes of transportation. So much of the film and crucial scenes happen through the perspective or the camera being placed near a window.
Yeah.
The filmmaking here is exquisite. And I think like it deserves to be mentioned as one of the best films of the year. And I truly, honest to God, hope that it does not get forgotten when nominations come around. I don't see it getting too much, honestly, but I'm hopeful for Best Picture and Best Screenplay. And I believe that is possible because last year, Women Talking got that screenplay and picture. And that's a roadmap it could follow. Unfortunately, I think it came out too early in the year for people to be remembering so much about it. But also, this is off topic, but it also just begs the question how, while there may be a number of really truly deserving movies that will be nominated and might some win this year, to me, this year, more than any other year, it would feel really strange that what many consider to be the best film of the year wouldn't be included because of its medium, and that would be animation. Across the Spider-Verse was a cultural moment, and it was easily one of the best looking films ever made. It is, in my view, an achievement in filmmaking. On top of it being a great film, clearly your dad agrees. So the idea that we're going to go into an award season, but this one's not included, even more so than any other animated films that I think we could have entertained. This one,
yeah,
this one is kind of the closest thing we have to a perfect movie. And the fact that it's not like this should be getting screenplay, picture. This should be getting editing. The editing was superb. This should be getting visual effects. Honestly. So, and score. Daniel Pemberton. God, it should. And it won't. So, brief tangent aside, any closing thoughts on this movie? Besides, go see it.
Yes. Please.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, with that, thank you all for being with me. Thank you all for being here. Thank you too for being on this show. It's so nice to not have to do one of these alone and have an actual back and forth going on. Stay tuned on our pages on Castbox, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube for more content. Hopefully, trying to like crawl back to a semi-weekly basis. On our show, we've got plenty of movies, as I mentioned at the top of the show, that we might be talking about. So stay tuned. Thank you all for being here. Stay under our spotlight for more content, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.